Daily Blast Live. We're talking about what you're talking about. Real, honest, entertaining, live. DBL starts right now.
3, 2.
Thank you, Michael and Bert. It was good to see both of you. Welcome to DBL. It is Tuesday, March 16th. I'm Tori here with my good friends Al and Lindsay. You all good?
What's going on?
Great.
We have a great show for you today, but first, coming up, there is a DBL daytime exclusive. Aaliyah Taylor, the ex-girlfriend of a former NFL player Chad Wheeler, opens up about the night she says he brutally beat her. She's sharing her survival story to DBL in hopes of helping others. That's coming up in just a few minutes, so stay tuned for that. It's an amazing interview. Players on an Oklahoma high school girls basketball team are speaking out right now. They're reacting to a sports announcer calling them the N-word after they kneeled during the national anthem at a recent game. So the announcer was caught on a hot mic using the offensive language. Take a listen. The announcer has apologized. He blamed the rant on a spike in his blood sugar, explaining that he suffers from type 1 diabetes. Meantime, some of the girls
Imagine what type 2 does.
What do you? I mean, wow. I think we got lucky.
Oh, man. Meantime, some of the girls from the team talked about the comments during a press conference yesterday with their attorney, Ben Crump. Here's some of what the ladies had to say. Take a look.
I took a knee to stand against social injustice and racism. And when I first heard the news that our team was called the N-word, I was just in disbelief. And the broadcaster should be held accountable so something like this doesn't happen in the future.
The NFHS network that broadcasts the game released this statement saying, in part, we are aggressively investigating the incident and have immediately cut ties with the third-party production crew that was involved. They also said the network firmly condemns racism, hate, and discrimination. The girls' team did go on to win the state championship. Like doing a little dust off there. So what do you guys make of this, and what do you think of the announcer's explanation for his comments? I do want to make a caveat. We called Dr. Coley to ask if type 1 diabetes, a high blood sugar spike, could cause direct racism and name calling, and she said that's highly unlikely and has never happened.
Did she say I'm a doctor and I'm busy? Don't call me just nonsense.
She did kind of. She was like, I'm kind of busy.
Okay.
I mean, what do y'all think about this? This is outrageous.
I mean, the tragic part is that this is getting overshadowed by these girls that are phenomenal at what they're doing, and then the best part is that they won. So it's just like, you know, but to me, it's really frustrating when people, and we've seen this time and time again, are blaming something like the Chad Wheeler interview we're about to show, is blaming it on mental health. Like, people have mental health challenges and they don't beat people up. People have, you know, diabetes. Like my grandmother, she doesn't hurl racial slurs at people. So like, these are all things that don't correlate. And so doing that actually stigmatizes and brings problems for these people actually suffering with real issues.
That's a great point. It dilutes their issues, doesn't it? Al, I mean, other than just being absolutely ridiculous, what do you think?
I mean, it just, first of all, I think then, Lindsay, you hit it right on the head. We're all older folks, so let's go back to high school. Remember what a big deal state championships were?
Huge.
So to win states was a big deal, so shout out to those girls. That's a big deal, and I'm really happy for them. I read a couple articles. A lot of them already locked into scholarships at Division I schools, so there's a reason they won like that.
And good for bringing that up.
Yeah, a couple of expletives was not going to stop that team. That being said, I really was, you know, really, and this is something I always have to think about in terms of talking to my son about dealing with the police or just being a growing boy of color who's starting to get a mustache. He's probably 5'7" now. Yeah. And so, you know, it's like, what day as a parent of color do you sit your kid down and have that conversation, because they're not going to be the same person after they leave that conversation. I thought that about those girls. It's like, that should be when they go back, and those women are going to be 45 years old with 3 kids running around, professionals and whatever they decided to do, and they'll look back on that year and they'll know that, like, in between those 2 games, that's what the whole country was talking about. So he took a lot more away from those girls than I think we realized.
It's true. I was called something being a Jewish slur, I remember, and there was really life before that moment and life after. Now, I'm not saying it dramatically changed me.
No,
but
it did, and you don't have to back away from that.
Right. Like,
and
I remember
try to
that.
protect you from that kind of thing. I know that a lot of times when I talk about my experience growing up in a diverse neighborhood, I never had an experience that I remember as a child dealing with racism head on like my little brother might have in that same neighborhood. But when I'm older now, that's when I really started to be aware. And so everything changed, right? And every single, I couldn't just let mannerisms slide in the way that I might have when I was a kid. And so, Al, I understand why you're not trying to expose your kids to that right now, but it's something that just unfortunate reality.
And I think women, you guys probably go through that as well, where you just feel like a little girl and then some grown man yells something and you're like, what?
Yeah, the first time you're sexualized. I mean, it's always the talk, right? What you talk about. All right, well, there's more controversy over Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion's performance at the Grammys. People are very upset at the explicit song and dance. A lot of the performance, they say, was too graphic for daytime television. But here's a very short portion that we're actually allowed to show. Take a look. The performance did include a warning beforehand that it may not be appropriate for small children, but other portions included the 2 women doing an intricate dance while intertwined, while all on top of a giant bed. Now, some folks are complaining that this performance was allowed to be broadcast nationally, but Mr. Potato Head was canceled. Others on Twitter commented this performance was trashy for a show that's supposed to be family friendly. Another person wrote, I am mortified for all who just witnessed what has happened to our society, unacceptable. But some defended the performance, saying, don't want to see your kids seeing that? Be a parent and don't let your kids see that. DBL Nation, we go to you when it comes to this. We want to know what you think. Was the performance too graphic, and should performances like this be canceled? So go ahead and write us on Facebook and YouTube, and we're going to make sure we get your votes here. I have to say, there's a lot of sexy performances at the award shows that are not black women that seem to be perfectly fine, including Madonna French kissing Britney and Christina, then rolling on the ground. We had Dua Lipa doing that at this actual performance, The Snake with Britney. Is it a racial issue? Is this a criminalization of the black women's body?
I just want to first rewind a little bit to the fact that they had this song and Cardi B perform on. This song was not nominated for anything, and the Grammys decided to bring them on to do this just for the controversy. And so we're acting like we're so blown away when this song wasn't even on the roster to get any awards. And then we wonder why this song, out of all the songs they have, obviously there's an entire committee that goes through what song is getting performed. Like, why are we acting so silly? And also, if the Grammys is the thing that your kid is learning stuff from, then you need to review your parenting skills. It really has nothing to do with...
Maybe I'm a bad parent. I just set him up in front of award shows.
Right. It's like, why is it being compared to Mr. Potato Head? Like,
that seemed apples to potatoes.
Was Cardi B's biggest song of the year, but she also wasn't getting any awards for this song. So I'm just really lost about why we're talking about this. And in the same performance night, Dua Lipa, like you said, had draws on as well, sparkly draws. So the only difference was that Cardi B had a bed and a pole. Cardi B was a stripper. What are we talking about? Cardi B was a former stripper.
I like how she said drawers, didn't you?
Yeah, she said drawers. Black people say drawers.
Draws,
yes,
whatever.
Black people say drawers. Mom
Underwear,
used to say
underwear.
drawers.
I was like, the knickers.
But no, you know, to answer your question, Lindsay, the reason that we have a side-by-side of Mr. Potato Head and Cardi B is because Mr. Potato Head is there to symbolize, we never say it, but it's there to symbolize a simpler time in America where you could just play and things were as they were. You know, women were paid half and you guys were all secretaries and nurses and teachers and quiet, and the blacks were on their side of town. Now we have on your television these women that are gyrating, and this is the end of, they're talking about our society falling like Rome. Okay? It's okay, guys. This is a super popular song. Go on TikTok, see how many views it has. Hundreds of millions. This song has been around, guys. It's okay. And we're still here.
Let us know what you guys think, if you think it was too sexy or if it was perfectly fine. Coming up, a DBL daytime exclusive. Erica goes one-on-one with Aaliyah Taylor, the ex-girlfriend of a former pro football player accused of attacking her. Aaliyah's powerful message of strength. That's coming up next. You don't want to miss it.
Closed captioning provided by
Drive-thrus have been booming during the pandemic, and restaurants are betting that will continue. Now they're using technology to predict what you'll order. Let's connect the dots. When the pandemic hit and restaurants faced restrictions, more places started upping their drive-thru game. That means Starbucks had workers walking car lines taking orders. Chipotle created Chipotlanes, where customers can grab pre-ordered food. And even Applebee's is testing its first drive-thru. Several big names are trying to improve the drive-thru experience with technology. For many, that means encouraging customers to order through apps to speed up the process and improve accuracy. Other restaurants have loyalty programs through their apps that reward customers with points for free food. And fast food giants like McDonald's and Burger King are turning to artificial intelligence to predict what you'll order. That means everything from suggesting iced coffee on a hot day to using Bluetooth technology to ID loyalty program members and ask if you want the same thing you ordered the last time. It's an improvement over screaming into a static-filled speaker in the drive-thru lane. Connecting the dots, I'm Tiffany Craig for H-Town Rush.
Welcome back to DBL. Her bruises may be gone, but her strength isn't. It's been a month since Aaliyah Taylor first told the world that her ex-boyfriend, former NFL player Chad Wheeler, strangled her and left her for dead. Chad has pleaded not guilty to the charges and will go on trial for the alleged assault in June. But before that happens, Aaliyah told us that she is speaking her truth. Erica spoke with her earlier in her very first daytime interview, making this a DBL exclusive. And a warning, some of the images you are about to see are disturbing and maybe triggering to some.
Please help me now. Oh, my arm's dislocated. Sir, have them come in this room now.
Aaliyah, welcome to DBL.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
You were very public last month and you told your story. So before we get started on the specifics of what happened that day, why are you continuing to speak out in this moment?
Before I worked in media, and it was always very important for me to speak on uncomfortable situations, speak on uncomfortable topics, and create a safe space for people to have conversations like this. And so with this happening to me, I'm just like, I just want to be able to create empowering conversations and educate people about it, and also be able to talk about the healing process. Unfortunately, it's something that happens so often. I didn't know it happened so often until it happened to me. It's not easy for me, and not everyone is blessed with a support system like me. So if I could try to help other people go through this, then I will.
Well, it's very important that it's not forgotten, because obviously your ex-boyfriend, Chad Wheeler, is going to court to stand these charges for your assault. So for those people who may not be familiar with your case, let's walk through the events that happened on January 22nd. You receive a message from Chad, and that was via text. What happened once you got home?
Yeah, when I got home, he was very emotional, crying a lot. And I just tried to console him, try to talk with him. We talk a lot about anything. We're like best friends. So this happened for a few hours on and off. He was crying. And eventually he went into my room, and I went to go check on him. And he was sitting on the ground, and he stood up and got really close to me and told me to bow down. And I asked him why. It was very, he's never asked me to bow down or do anything like that or had that kind of tone with me. So it scared me a lot. And he told me to bow down again. I refused, and that's when he began attacking me.
What is it that's happening? I'm being killed.
So we know that you had significant injuries from this attack, things that you'll have to live with for the rest of your life, I understand?
Yeah, unfortunately. I have a concussion, anxiety, my left arm, the elbow was dislocated and the humerus was broken. So I have a lot of therapy, a lot of healing to do from that.
And you have been very transparent about your experience both that night and beyond. But that night, what did you think the outcome was going to be?
In my mind, thinking, he's very emotional. He just had a hard trip in LA, he maybe just needs to, cry it out, get it out of his system, and we'll be on vacay the next morning, the next day, and it'll be okay. And it's a safe space at my house. So I just figured, that was it. The moment he wrapped his fingers around my throat, that's when I thought, okay, I'm gonna die. I didn't think I was gonna make it as soon as he had started strangling me.
When we come back, we'll chat more with Aaliyah and hear from her what she believes is true justice. Stay tuned.
Are the CDC, Dr. Linda Nabhan, infectious diseases expert with the University of Pittsburgh, and Dr. Namanje Bumpus from Johns Hopkins University, who says food allergies are not a concern here.
Food allergies are not contraindicated, milk allergy, egg allergy, any of that.
And Dr. Nabha told us that there's no reason a shellfish allergy should keep you from getting a vaccine.
Shellfish is okay.
The CDC agrees, saying that they recommend, quote, that people get vaccinated even if they have a history of severe allergic reactions not related to vaccine or injectable medications, such as food, pet, venom, environmental, or latex allergies. So we can verify that yes, if you have food allergies, you should still get a COVID-19 vaccine. With your Verify, I'm Evan Kozloff, WHAS 11 News.
Welcome back to DBL. We're continuing our conversation with Aaliyah Taylor, the woman who says she was brutally beaten by her ex-boyfriend, former NFL player Chad Wheeler. Now, days after the alleged attack, Chad tweeted an apology saying, quote, events happened over the weekend that transpired from a manic episode. But Aaliyah questions that theory. Here's what she told Erica in DBL's daytime exclusive interview. A warning, some of the images you are about to see are disturbing and may be triggering to some.
One of the main points that people were talking about was his mental health, even though you were the actual victim, and that became the narrative. After that event, because there were some things that we didn't hear about, what made you feel like it could have possibly have been not about his mental health?
Questions that I'm asking you.
It did seem like there were character changes. But again, I'm not a psychologist. I don't know how these things work. I mean, when I was in the bathroom calling for 911, you know, didn't check on me and ask if I was okay. But when the police came, they had pushed him into like the bathtub. He asked the cops if they were okay. And hearing that like kind of broke my heart a little bit, because you asked the cops if they're okay, but you didn't check on me. So that was kind of hard hearing.
Anyone who's had proximity to domestic violence knows that it's a very intimate and complicated issue, but at the end of the day, there is a victim, and that victim should be the person who receives the first concern. So do you feel like going to prison is something that should happen in the future?
I do think so, just because this isn't the first run-in he's had with the cops in a violent manner. I just feel like he needs to understand the consequences of what he did. He almost took my life, and he knows how important I am to so many people in such a brutal way. And then he expected to go on vacay still, which was odd, being in court hearing that he still wanted to go to Hawaii after. I just don't think that he fully understands the consequences. I just don't think that him not going would be beneficial to him or public safety at all.
The idea that knowing how important you are to so many people, that it's almost as though you feel like it has to be a validation to your self-worth. And I'm wondering if that's something that you're feeling right now.
I remember at first, like the first week or two after, I was still able to contact his dad, and I was texting his dad asking like if Chad was okay. And then I had to take a break and take a step back and ask, you know, wait, I almost lost my life in a brutal, brutal way. I had to stop and think, like, if I wouldn't have called the cops, my family could have found me that way. It took me a while before even deciding to press charges, because I had to actually put myself on the back burner and think, what if this happens to another woman? As much as I do care and love him, God forbid this happens to someone else.
There are people who are watching right here, right now in this moment, that you are normalizing and validating their experiences, and hopefully that gives them some semblance of strength and validity in their truth. So what you're doing is so important right now, and I'm just wondering what closure looks like for you.
I've thought about that. I actually think about that every day. Like, if I were to know why he did it, would that give me closure? Or if I were to know what could have been done to prevent it, even though there's nothing that could have been done, but I don't know, I have no idea what closure kind of looks like for me right now. I think that maybe getting to a point where I am close to being healthy and having some movement back in my arm. As I think about it, that might be close to closure for me right now.
I really want people to continue to rally behind you, and I want you to continue to speak your truth, if not for you, for everyone else who's looking towards you for support. So Aaliyah Taylor, I thank you so much for joining us on DBL.
Thanks for having me.
Wow. If you or someone you know is dealing with domestic violence, we want you to take down these numbers that can offer help. You can always also visit thehotline.org. It is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and is confidential. Now, we want to make clear yesterday that DBL did reach out to Chad Wheeler's attorney via phone and email for a comment, but at the time of this taping, we did not get a response.
I think there are so many domestic violence survivors that don't have a famous partner that could blow the story up. They don't have any photos to show that they were abused. And so I think that her speaking up and sharing her story like this is really just going to help people say that their story, especially black women, are validated enough to speak up and get some type of help from the authorities that are supposed to be there to help them. And chalking it up to a manic episode is not going to work in this particular case, because those two things, while they both can coexist, that's not going to be what's to blame for the reason why she got abused in that way.
I hope so. I hope she finds closure. I hope she does. The audience here is writing in that poor lady. We agree. We wish you the best, Aaliyah. We'll be right back.
Promotional consideration is brought to you by
The Verify team is here to get you the facts, dispelling misinformation spreading online. And we've seen a lot of questions about the latest stimulus checks. David from Maryland asked us this question. The last $600 stimulus checks were not subject to child supports and other garnishments. Are the $1,400 checks exempt as well? So let's verify. Can these checks be garnished by either the government or private debtors? Our sources are Henry Grez from the American Institute of CPAs, this letter from a coalition of financial associations, including the American Bankers Association, an emergency order from Maryland Governor Larry Hogan, and the bill itself, the American Rescue Plan. Grez tells us that the answer depends on the type of debt. Just like in the past, these stimulus checks cannot be garnished by the federal government or the IRS, but they can be garnished by private companies.
If you're behind on credit card payments and the credit card company has filed a judgment against you, they will be able to access that.
And our viewers aren't the only ones who noticed. 19 financial groups signed this letter to Secretary of the Treasury Janet Yellen, urging Congress to pass a standalone bill that would protect these checks from being garnished. So far, though, no such bill has been signed into law. But there is action on the state level. Governor Hogan just issued this emergency order saying that these payments are exempt from garnishment and that, quote, all financial institutions are ordered to consider these payments as protected. The governor's office told the Verify team that this only applies to banks that are doing business in the state who are subject to their oversight. So we can verify that yes, as of now, these checks can be garnished by private companies, although there are efforts on the state and federal level to stop this. With your Verify, I'm Evan Kozlov.
business owners are still feeling the financial impact of the pandemic, so we're sharing some tips to help in today's Bang for Your Buck. First up, adapt to digital. You gotta try marketing and selling online to maintain your sales. Second, study your stats. If certain products weren't selling before, get rid of them. And third, invest in small business insurance. When it comes to your small business or any type of quality and affordable insurance, the Buck's got your back. The Hartford will be happy to provide you with solutions. Call 1-800-684-6085 or visit thehartford.com to learn more. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't give a shout out to one of our dearest friends and supporters of the show, our superior producer, Michael Dean, turned 40 today. And look at him. Look how gorgeous he is and brilliant and smart. We love you so, so much, right?
His dreams. I told him I want to live his life for 10 days.
Amen. DBL's new every day. We'll see you same time, same place. Bye, guys.
On Daily Blast Live.
A DBL daytime exclusive. Aaliyah Taylor, the ex-girlfriend of former NFL player Chad Wheeler, opens up about the night she says he brutally beat her.
The moment he wrapped his fingers around my throat, that's when I thought, okay, I'm gonna die.
The controversy continues over Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion's provocative performance at the Grammys. Was it too sexy for the family-friendly awards show? Moms behaving badly, with one woman accused of creating deep fake videos to frame cheerleading rivals. Plus, did another mom and her daughter really rig a high school homecoming court contest? And Glenn Close lands an Oscar and a Razzie nomination for the same role. Will she take home awards for being the best, but also the worst?
You've always got a reason. It's always someone else's fault.
Real, honest, entertaining, live. DBL starts right now.
3, 2.
Welcome to DBL. It is Tuesday, March 16th. I'm Sam here with Jeff and Al. Erica joins us from home. Now, first, we have coming up a DBL daytime exclusive. Aaliyah Taylor, the ex-girlfriend of former NFL player Chad Wheeler, opens up about the night she says he brutally beat her. She's sharing her survival story to DBL in hopes of helping others. That is coming up. You do not want to miss it. And that'll be coming up a little later in the show. All right, so let's get right to it. Players on an Oklahoma high school girls basketball team are speaking out right now. They're reacting to a sports announcer calling them the N-word after they kneeled during the national anthem at a recent game. The announcer was caught on a hot mic using the offensive language. Listen. Wow. The announcer has apologized. He blamed the rant on a spike in his blood sugar, explaining that he suffers from type 1 diabetes. Meantime, some of the girls from the team talked about the comments during a press conference yesterday with their attorney, Ben Crump. Here's some of what they said.
I took a knee to stand against social injustice and racism. And when I first heard the news that our team was called the N-word, I was just in disbelief. And the broadcaster should be held accountable so something like this doesn't happen in the future.
The NFHS, the network that broadcasts the game, released a statement saying, in part, quote, "We are aggressively investigating the incident and have immediately cut ties with the third-party production crew that was involved." They also said the network firmly condemns racism, hate, and discrimination. The girls' team did go on to win the state championship. Yes. Okay, so what do you all make of this? And what do you think of the announcer's explanation for his comments? Please write us in. Before we start, Al, I just want to say that we, as a show, we reached out to Dr. Pyle Coley. She's an expert when it comes to medicine, and we asked her about the diabetes excuse. She said, yes, if you produce a ton of insulin, you could get somehow foggy, but it doesn't make you racist. And that's someone that would be producing a ton of insulin. So then
she blocked your number for asking that silly question.
But we
do our due diligence on the show.
We have to, so yes, squash that. It's an excuse, a poor excuse. Shame on him. Go out.
You know, it's a couple things. One, Jeff, and you know, you played high school sports at a high level. You played in college as well. Going to states is a big deal. Huge. It's something that will probably be the pinnacle of your athletic career, and that's a big deal in itself. And I think about 20 years from now, when they're girls now, women, when they get together and watch this thing and they're laughing like, look at your ponytail, they'll remember that this happened. So that was taken away from them, and that does make me sad. But you know what? It really makes me think about myself and the coming conversations I have to have with my young son about his interactions with the police and things like this. And it's something I keep putting off, because I know that just like these girls, they're not going to be the same person going into that conversation as they are leaving. So I'm sorry this happened to these girls. I keep calling them girls, but they are girls actually. But I'm happy to say that a lot of these women have incredible Division I scholarships coming up, so they have a bright future.
They do. And before you chime in, I just want to get Erica in. Erica, considering that you've been very transparent on our show about situations where you have been called that horrific slur, what advice would you give to these young girls, considering, you know, that everything that you have gone through?
Oh, young queens, winning is the only answer. So kudos on that. Yeah, you continue to win, you continue to vibrate, you continue to level up, because people are coming for you when you vibrate that high. This is very reminiscent of Don Imus calling the Rutgers basketball team nappy-headed hoes after their wins, the pinnacle of their success. And now we're having the conversation about racial slurs, as opposed to some people who should be celebrating something really special and important. So win, always continue to win, because no one can say jack when you win.
Yes, Erica, well said. Okay, so Jeff, there's more controversy over Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion's performance at the Grammys. People are very upset at the explicit song and dance. A lot of the performance was too graphic for daytime television, but here is a short portion that we're allowed to show you. Okay, the performance did include a warning, though, beforehand, that it may not be appropriate for small children, but other portions included the two women doing an intricate dance while intertwined, all on top of a giant bed. Some folks are complaining that this performance was allowed to be broadcast nationally, but Mr. Potato Head was canceled. Others on Twitter commented, quote, "This performance was trashy for a show that is supposed to be family friendly." Another person wrote, "I am mortified for all who just witnessed what has happened to our society. Unacceptable." But some defended the performance, saying, quote, "Don't want your kids seeing that. Be a parent. Don't let your kids see that." So DBL Nation, of course, we want to hear from you. In your opinion, was the performance too graphic, and should performances like this be canceled? Write us in on Facebook and YouTube, Jeff.
Well, glad you went to me first. I hate to be the old fuddy-duddy on the show, but to me it's not. Listen, what am I supposed to say?
Now you are a fuddy-duddy.
I have to say fuddy-duddy, because if I say anything else, I might be canceled. So I really have to walk on eggshells over here when I'm on air. I don't think it's classy. To me, it's not classy. I think CBS should be held to a higher standard. ABC just released Chris Harrison for an opinion he had on something. Some people agree with it, some people don't agree with it. It was an opinion. ABC had to let him go. CBS has fired people in this era, whether it be Me Too, Black Lives Matter, whatever it may be, have been fired. We put this on the air. Mr. Potato was a terrible example. Dr. Seuss is a better example because that's a visual. It wasn't anything written that was racist in Dr. Seuss. It was the pictures in Dr. Seuss. That was visual. They got canceled. The White House said you are no longer part of National Book Day. This is a visual that people see. I don't understand why we judge one thing and cancel it and the other thing. I'm not offended by it, okay? If I had daughters, I might be. I do want to say that. I have 2 sons. I wasn't offended by it, but I understand how people could be.
I'll just say this, Jeff, really quickly. The Dr. Seuss people pulled that book themselves. That was not canceled by the public.
Sex and racism.
But the White House took it off of National Book Day.
Those were not the popular ones anyway. So I just don't like. I want to hear from Erica.
I don't think that Erica chime in. I don't think. Listen, Jeff, I know you're not offended, but I don't think that we can compare sex or sex positivity. Even though I would not let my children watch it, so I'm with you, Jeff. However, I'm not going to compare sex positivity to racism. I understand why other people have been canceled. I don't think these women should be canceled because adults can watch this. This is sex positive.
I really think that we're conflating a lot of things. First of all, Meg Thee Stallion nor Cardi B called for the cancellation of Mr. Potato Head, so we can stop that conversation right now. I think that some things that could be conflated are the way that Janet Jackson was treated versus the way that we saw Madonna or Britney or Christina when they go down as one of the most iconic displays in history. So I think that this actually is like the pendulum swinging back. Like Janet slipped so Cardi B and Meg Thee Stallion could WAP. They're taking ownership over their art. They're taking ownership over their bodies. And I think that it's very jarring for people to see 2 black women or women of color really express themselves unapologetically in this way. And if people have a problem with it, just remember that there's a lot of songs out there that your kids are singing, and the moment that you tell them that it's something they can't do, they gravitate towards it. Remember parental advisories during the height of gangster rap? That backfired, so
Erica,
just keep that in mind.
The UFC was on this week. It was men fighting in a cage. There was a horrible eye injury. Jeff, did you watch the UFC this weekend? Would you let Lawson watch it?
Yeah, listen, I understand what you're saying,
and
but
I'm genuinely asking.
We live in an era of cancel culture. I'm not trying to be racist here when Erica says 2 black women. I'm not comparing 2 black women. I'm not even comparing sexuality to this. Actually, I am a little bit if you're a young woman watching this, as if one of those people is your idol. I'm comparing it to we live in this whole society of cancel culture. Everything's being canceled. I understand Dr. Seuss racist. I'm not comparing racism to what Cardi B did. I'm not. You have to understand what I'm saying. You have to be very careful.
Wait, are you saying that Cardi's being canceled?
I don't want Cardi to be canceled either. Right. We are canceling things at a rapid rate, right? Whatever they may be, whatever it's for. Why is this okay to air and we're defending that? We're not even allowed to say the name of the song on this show. We can't even say the letters that it stands for. Right. If I say one of those words, if someone overheard me in an office setting say what that song was and someone reported me to HR, I would lose my job. This is the reality of what we're talking about.
But it was on at 10 o'clock at night because it's for adults. Just like when you go to Vegas.
It's on CBS, Al. It's not HBO.
But when you go to Vegas, you can go see a family show or you can go see a topless show. It's for adults and some are for families, and you make that decision.
Again, but we have to balance out society a little bit here. I totally get what you're saying, and I'm not even against Cardi B. I like Cardi B, but people, I know we gotta go.
This is a great conversation.
Really good conversation. Okay, so coming up on the show, a daytime exclusive for DBL. Erica goes one-on-one with Aaliyah Taylor, the ex-girlfriend of a former pro football player accused of attacking her. We'll be right back.
Closed captioning provided by
Drive-thrus have been booming during the pandemic, and restaurants are betting that will continue. Now they're using technology to predict what you'll order. Let's connect the dots. When the pandemic hit and restaurants faced restrictions, more places started upping their drive-through game. That means Starbucks had workers walking car lines taking orders. Chipotle created Chipotlanes, where customers can grab pre-ordered food. And even Applebee's is testing its first drive-through. Several big names are trying to improve the drive-through experience with technology. For many, that means encouraging customers to order through apps to speed up the process and improve accuracy. Other restaurants have loyalty programs through their apps that reward customers with points for free food. And fast food giants like McDonald's and Burger King are turning to artificial intelligence to predict what you'll order. That means everything from suggesting iced coffee on a hot day to using Bluetooth technology to ID loyalty program members and ask if you want the same thing you ordered the last time. It's an improvement over screaming into a static-filled speaker in the drive-through lane. Connecting the dots, I'm Tiffany Craig for H-Town Rush.
Before we get to a couple of stories about moms behaving badly, I have a correction to make. Clearly, I'm not a doctor. Our own Dr. Coley said, no, Sam, not insulin rising, but sugar. So if your sugar goes way up and you're diabetic, you can get foggy, never racist. So I just wanted to correct that. Sorry about that, Dr. Coley. Okay, so first, this Pennsylvania mom was arrested for conspiring to get her daughter's cheerleading rival kicked off the squad. The mom allegedly created deep fake videos of the teen vaping. Important to note, smoking is not allowed if you're on the cheerleading team. Speaking to GMA, the girl said she was shocked when her coach showed her the images. Have a look.
I went in the car and started crying and was like, that's not me on video, because I thought if I said it that no one would believe me, because obviously like there's proof, like it's a video, but the video was obviously manipulated.
Next, a mother, and we're going to talk about that, but we're going to show you both videos first. Next, a mother and daughter in Florida are accused of rigging a high school homecoming court election. The mother is an assistant principal, by the way, at an elementary school. The daughter allegedly used her mom's credentials to hack into the system in order to vote for herself as homecoming queen. The mom and daughter now face 3 felony charges related to the crime. Woo! Okay. You're shaking your head. Which one is more? They're both outrageous.
Well, I wonder how much pressure kids, I mean, I don't know why I'm saying this, but I wonder how much pressure like high school kids have to do something so diabolical, to get into the computer and make yourself homecoming queen just to feel that sense of pride. It's I worry about our high school and our younger kids.
I appreciate your empathy, because you immediately wondered, why is this child acting out, as opposed to criticizing the child. So yeah, I blame the parents as well.
I mean, it's like, obviously this is terrible.
It's the mama.
Yes,
yeah,
honey.
That's what it seems like, right, Erica? It seems like the mom is egging this on.
It doesn't seem like it. It is. It's the mama, okay? That's your mama.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, like, people, this is not about pressure. This is about pride and the idea of winning at all costs. Just remember, people, you never win when you play dirty. You might get a tiny little battle, but you're never gonna take home the war, okay? I'm just saying, these women are out here bored, clearly overstepping, overparenting, helicoptering, and wishing that they could live back their days of yore. You can't. It's over. Move on with your life and let your children be.
So what should happen?
I do have a counter want to point to Erica.
Okay.
All right, Erica, it's a great bonding experience. All right, between mother and daughter, I'm just saying, they'll never forget. Be like, remember that time we robbed that bank? High five. Like, this is crazy. The deep fake, are we not going to discuss that?
Please, can we look at the photo of the deep fake again? Can we please, I know we only have a few seconds left, but let's just look at that deep fake. I mean, come on. How horrific that she's setting up this other, it doesn't even, I don't know. Wow, that's not even that good. You can tell it's a deep fake.
And that's the worst thing that they could have her do.
I know. Wow. Well, hopefully these moms will suffer the consequences and not the kids. We'll be right back.
Are you 50 or over?
Welcome back to DBL. As COVID-19 vaccines get distributed globally, Oxford's AstraZeneca vaccine, which has not yet been approved for use in the U.S., has some controversy. Dr. Payal Kohli joins us live. And Doc, we wanted you to weigh in on this. A growing list of countries, including France, Italy, Spain, and Germany, have suspended the use of the vaccine amid concerns of blood clots. But the World Health Organization and the drug's developers say there is no evidence that that shot is to blame. So what do we know about the AstraZeneca vaccine right now? And what do you think about this degree of panic from these countries when health experts are warning against it?
So here's what we know. We know that over 70 million people have received the AstraZeneca vaccine, and we also know that only just over 30 have had this reaction with blood clots. Now keep in mind that this could just be a background level of blood clots that has nothing to do with the vaccine. So this could just be an association that these people got the vaccine, happened to have a blood clot they would have had anyways, and not necessarily a causation. So, you know, part of me, the physician part, is actually a little bit happy that we're looking so carefully at the data, that we're suspending administering more until we're absolutely sure that this is not a causal link. But the citizen part of me and the more rational part of me says this is a little bit of an overreaction. And the problem is that once the public loses confidence in the vaccine, it's going to be really hard to get them to trust it again. And this is a good vaccine.
All right, Doc, we got some good news on vaccines today as well for kids. The first ones are getting the Moderna vaccine as part of a new study. What could you tell us about this study?
So the way that this works, Jeff, is called age de-escalation. So you start with the adults, you make sure it's safe. Then you go to the adolescents, make sure it's safe. Then you go to the younger kids under 12 to make sure that it's safe for them. And so I'm really excited now that the vaccines have entered clinical trials for kids under 12. And this Moderna trial is 6,750 kids in the US and in Canada, 2 different age ranges, 2 to 12 and 6 months to 12. And what they're doing is they're trying different doses to try to find the right doses for our kids. So I'm hopeful that kids, even as young as 6 months, may have a vaccine once this trial completes.
All right, Doc. Well, this question is near and dear to my heart because I have 2 teenagers. I can't believe I'm saying that. And a 6-year-old.
Crazy.
Time is, man. Anyway, well, you know, we're talking about vaccines for kids. I want my kids, especially my teenagers, to have their teenage years, go to homecoming dances, all that good stuff. How long do you think before all kids will start getting any of the vaccines?
So it's a little hard to say, Al, until the clinical trials complete, but the good news is that the adolescent trials, like Pfizer, for example, already finished enrolling in January. So optimistically, by later this year, the adolescents, your teenagers could have a vaccine. Now, if you think about Sam's kids or Jeff's kids, they're a little bit younger. And since this trial just started today, they're looking at 12 months of data. So it's probably going to be next year for those kids younger than 12.
Wow, great information, as always, Dr. K. And you heard my correction earlier, right? Sorry for getting the insulin sugar wrong.
I did. No, you got it perfect.
After the fact. Thank you so much, Dr. Coley. We appreciate you, as always.
You had too much glucose, right? That's why you messed up.
That's exactly right.
And thank you for honoring that with a response, Doc. I would have just blocked her number. You're way more mature than me.
We'll be right back.
Promotion.
The Verify team is here to get you the facts, dispelling misinformation spreading online. And we've seen a lot of questions about the latest stimulus checks. David from Maryland asked us this question. The last $600 stimulus checks were not subject to child supports and other garnishments. Are the $1,400 checks exempt as well? So let's verify. Can these checks be garnished by either the government or private debtors? Our sources are Henry Grez from the American Institute of CPAs, this letter from a coalition of financial associations, including the American Bankers Association, an emergency order from Maryland Governor Larry Hogan, and the bill itself, the American Rescue Plan. Grez tells us that the answer depends on the type of debt. Just like in the past, these stimulus checks cannot be garnished by the federal government or the IRS, but they can be garnished by private companies.
If you're behind on credit card payments and the credit card company has filed a judgment against you, they will be able to access that.
And our viewers aren't the only ones who noticed. 19 financial groups signed this letter to Secretary of the Treasury Janet Yellen, urging Congress to pass a standalone bill that would protect these checks from being garnished. So far, though, no such bill has been signed into law. But there is action on the state level. Governor Hogan just issued this emergency order saying that these payments are exempt from garnishment and that, quote, all financial institutions are ordered to consider these payments as protected. The governor's office told the Verify team that this only applies to banks that are doing business in the state who are subject to their oversight. So we can verify that yes, as of now, these checks can be garnished by private companies, although there are efforts on the state and federal level to stop this. With your Verify, I'm Evan.
DBL. We love sharing your comments. Okay, we got an email. See, we check email too. This is from Michelle. She says, I'm in the Seattle area and the Grammys aired starting at 5. I don't have kids in the house, but I did not want to see the performance. It went way over the line for a network family show. Why do these young women feel the need to do that? Now, 5 p.m. is a good point. I would,
that's a game changer.
That changes everything.
That's
if you're watching with your children at 5 p.m. and you want to inspire your kids.
And you have expectations about what's on TV at 5 o'clock. I think after 9 o'clock, then it's kind of dicey. But up until then, I can understand any parent being like, hey, man, come on, dog.
Yeah. That's family hour. 5 p.m. is peak family hour. If you're leaving us, you can watch the second half of the show on Facebook or YouTube, but if you're sticking around, here's what's coming up on DBL. Erica speaks with Aaliyah Taylor, the brave young woman coming forward after alleging her ex-boyfriend, a former pro football player, attacked her. It's a daytime exclusive for DBL. Plus the dramatic season finale of The Bachelor, why everyone is still buzzing about it today, and a heartfelt thank you to our coworkers tuning in from home right now as they work so hard. We appreciate you all. DBL is new every day, and we will be right back.
About what you're talking about. Real, honest, entertaining, live. DBL starts right now.
3, 2.
Welcome to DBL. Oh, if you guys only saw our executive producer skipping and hopping as we counted in.
No, he was harassing our cameraman, Sam. Let's say. And first of all, Rob is back. We missed you this last week. You were seeing your family in New England, man. Love you, bro. Glad you're back.
Yes, we love you, Rob. Okay, so I'm Sam here with Jeff and Al. Erica joins us from home. Let's get right to it. The latest season of The Bachelor came to an end last night. Matt James gave his final rose to Rachel Kirkconnell. But during the After the Final Rose segment, hosted by Emmanuel Ochoa, the two revealed they had broken up. Matt said it happened after Rachel's controversial photos taken at an Old South plantation party were made public. Speaking on GMA today, Matt talked about the breakup and the pressure he felt as the franchise's first Black Bachelor watch.
It hit me like a ton of bricks, you know. I felt the weight of everything that I was carrying throughout the season and with what we were dealing with as a country, and having to explain that, why it was problematic to me and our relationship, which was extremely difficult.
Wow. Also during the show, not one, but 2 new bachelorettes were announced. Matt's exes, Katie Thurston and Michelle Young, will have their own seasons back-to-back later this year. Okay, so this is very interesting because I feel like this couple is almost a microcosm of what's going on in this country today, right? And clearly her old South Plantation photos, and it seems like he hinted at perhaps some other issues where he couldn't dedicate all his time to like explain to her why things had directly affected him as a black man in America, and you know, it cost them their relationship. What do you make of that, Al?
Yeah, you know, I look at this and we can use this as a chance to analyze society in general, but I'd like to look at this as just with these 2 individuals. Both of the last 2 male and female black contestants didn't get to enjoy themselves. You know, I mean, you beat out 100,000 people. You are about to be the most famous single person in America, one of the most famous single people in the world, and you're talking about the Old South and Dixie, and is that okay, and is this racist? And it's just like, you wonder why black people die at such an early. It's because our minds can never rest. Even when you make it to the top, you still have to deal with this all the time, and you can never just be like, I'm the Bachelor, let's go get some champagne and get in the pool. We got a pool. You can never do that. Jeff, you were on a reality show, man. Talk to me.
Well, Al, I mean, I would think I was going to go where you were going with this. Earlier, you talked about you have to have that conversation about the N-word with your kids. It like broke my heart when you were saying that, right? And now, like you said, this guy gets to the top, he gets his dream, and he's got to deal with these photos now. He's not enjoying himself. Like, that was exactly where my mind went. He's not having a good time. Now he's got the controversy of the host not being the host anymore from his season. All this extra weight, not just being the first black man on the show, but all this extra weight that he doesn't need, and now he wishes almost, well, I don't want to speak for him, but it's like, I loved my time. I did some bad things, I did some great things, I met my wife, I loved my time on reality TV. I owe everything I have to that. How is he going to look back on this? I wonder. We shouldn't put so much pressure on him. I feel bad.
Erica, chime in.
Yeah, I mean, Al, you hit it. I couldn't have said that better. I really, when I think about Rachel Lindsay, who, you know, I mean, that's like my sister friend, okay? I really love her, and she is such an amazingly brilliant attorney, host, personality, and she really took a large brunt of that Chris Harrison fallout, something that had nothing to do with her. And with Matt was kind of in a lose-lose situation regardless, but for this all to come out and Rachel's actions in the past, and he picked her, so now that stench is on him as well, and now he's getting backlash for not staying the course. I don't think people understand that. I do believe that this man is still protecting this woman in some way, and I'm not coming down on this girl, okay? I understand that what she did was, it represents so much bigger context of our history, but like in the grand scheme of things, it's not about her. Really, it's about him in this moment. He has to navigate these waters, and for him to say that they had a conversation and he wasn't comfortable with having to explain to her the context of how that affected him as a black man means that some things were said that meant that she had a fundamental misunderstanding of how life works, right, or how history actually evolved. And that's not up to someone who's only known you for 6 weeks to dismantle and help you rebuild that foundation. I think he's absolutely right. That work is up to her.
Well said, Erica. Okay, so Glenn Close has been nominated for an Oscar and a Razzie for the same role. How is that possible? The actress scored her 8th Oscar nod for her role in Hillbilly Elegy, but the role also earned her a Razzie nomination for Worst Supporting Actress. The movie Doolittle had the most Razzie nominations with 6, including Worst Actor for star Robert Downey Jr. How is that possible, Jeff? How can someone be nominated?
I'm glad you asked Jeff because he's an actor, so I want to know.
Yeah, Jeff is an actor.
No, you've been a leading man. I'm not playing this with you. You're an actor.
Yes.
Go.
So, Jeff, how can somebody be nominated for an Oscar and then a Razzie?
It's the divide that we have in our country right now. It's what's going on, right? If someone puts you, I don't even want to say a pedestal, if someone celebrates you in some sort of way, half the people will love you, the other half are there to take you down. That's exactly what it is. So if you're not on the side of loving Robert Downey Jr. and I'm on this side, you're going to want to take me down with Robert Downey Jr. just because I'm not on your side. This is kind of a great example of what's going on in everything. It's a microcosm of what we're going through as a society.
When does your movie come out, the new one?
It comes out this, I don't know.
What do you think? This spring?
They honestly doesn't know. Yeah, they got to finish editing that stuff.
I'm excited.
And I don't know, like, I might earn my, no, let's just move on.
It's a big deal. You have big stars in this movie.
It's so annoying, Sam. Jeff just will not.
I know.
You're just like, when's your movie? I don't know.
He's humble.
What? I heard you gotta.
Let's watch it first.
Yeah, I'm like, dude. Jeff,
Can't
you're
wait.
a cool guy, man.
We will do a screening here.
Yes.
Coming up on DBL, a daytime exclusive for DBL. Aaliyah Taylor tells our very own Erica what it was like surviving an alleged attack at the hands of her ex-boyfriend, a former NFL player. Do not go away.
Former Miss America, Nina Davuluri. She made history as the first woman of South Asian descent to win the crown and tells us why the fight against colorism isn't over.
Colorism is this ideology that's very toxic, that lighter skin is more ideal, more elite.
That's tomorrow only on DBL.
Closed caption.
Welcome back to DBL. Her bruises may be gone, but her strength isn't. It's been a month since Aaliyah Taylor first told the world that her ex-boyfriend, former NFL player Chad Wheeler, strangled her and left her for dead. Chad has pleaded not guilty to the charges and will go on trial for the alleged assault in June. But before that happens, Aaliyah told us she's speaking her truth. Erica spoke with her earlier in her first daytime interview, making it a DBL exclusive. And a warning, some of the images you're about to see are disturbing and may be triggering to some.
Please help me now. Oh, my arm's dislocated. Sir, have them come in this room now.
Aaliyah, welcome to DBL.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
You were very public last month and you told your story. So before we get started on the specifics of what happened that day, why are you continuing to speak out in this moment?
Before I worked in media, and it was always very important for me to speak on uncomfortable situations, speak on uncomfortable topics, and create a safe space for people to have conversations like this. And so with this happening to me, I'm just like, I just want to be able to create empowering conversations and educate people about it, and also be able to talk about the healing process. Unfortunately, it's something that happens so often. I didn't know it happened so often until it happened to me. It's not easy for me, and not everyone is blessed with a support system like me. So if I could try to help other people go through this, then I will.
Well, it's very important that it's not forgotten, because obviously your ex-boyfriend, Chad Wheeler, is going to court to stand these charges for your assault. So for those people who may not be familiar with your case, let's walk through the events that happened on January 22nd. You receive a message from Chad, and that was via text. What happened once you got home?
Yeah, when I got home, he was very emotional, crying a lot. And I just tried to console him, try to talk with him. We talk a lot about anything. We're like best friends. So this happened for a few hours on and off. He was crying. And eventually he went into my room, and I went to go check on him. And he was sitting on the ground, and he stood up and got really close to me and told me to bow down. And I asked him why. It was very, he's never asked me to bow down or do anything like that or had that kind of tone with me. So it scared me a lot. And he told me to bow down again. I refused, and that's when he began attacking me.
What is it that's happening? I'm being killed.
So we know that you had significant injuries from this attack, things that you'll have to live with for the rest of your life, I understand?
Yeah, unfortunately. I have a concussion, anxiety, my left arm, the elbow was dislocated and the humerus was broken. So I have a lot of therapy, a lot of healing to do from that.
And you have been very transparent about your experience both that night and beyond. But that night, what did you think the outcome was going to be?
In my mind, thinking, he's very emotional. He just had a hard trip in LA, he maybe just needs to, cry it out, get it out of his system, and we'll be on vacay the next morning, the next day, and it'll be okay. And it's a safe space at my house. So I just figured, that was it. The moment he wrapped his fingers around my throat, that's when I thought, okay, I'm gonna die. I didn't think I was gonna make it as soon as he had started strangling me.
When we come back, we'll chat more with Aaliyah and hear from her what she believes is true justice. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to DBL. We are continuing our conversation with Aaliyah Taylor, the woman who says she was brutally beaten by her ex-boyfriend, former NFL player Chad Wheeler. Days after the alleged attack, Chad tweeted an apology saying, quote, "Events happened over the weekend that transpired from a manic episode." But Aaliyah questions that theory. Here's what she told Erica in DBL's daytime exclusive interview. And a warning, some of the images you are about to see are disturbing and may be triggering to some.
One of the main points that people were talking about was his mental health, even though you were the actual victim, and that became the narrative. After that event, because there were some things that we didn't hear about, what made you feel like it could have possibly have been not about his mental health?
Questions that I'm asking you.
It did seem like there were character changes. But again, I'm not a psychologist. I don't know how these things work. I mean, when I was in the bathroom calling them for 911, you know, didn't check on me and ask if I was okay. But when the police came, they had pushed him into like the bathtub. He asked the cops if they were okay. And hearing that like kind of broke my heart a little bit, because you asked the cops if they're okay, but you didn't check on me. So that was kind of hard hearing.
Anyone who's had proximity to domestic violence knows that it's a very intimate and complicated issue, but at the end of the day, there is a victim, and that victim should be the person who receives the first concern. So do you feel like going to prison is something that should happen in the future?
I do think so, just because this isn't the first run-in he's had with the cops in a violent manner. I just feel like he needs to understand the consequences of what he did. He almost took my life, and he knows how important I am to so many people in such a brutal way. And then he expected to go on vacay still, which was odd, being in court hearing that he still wanted to go to Hawaii after. I just don't think that he fully understands the consequences. I just don't think that him not going would be beneficial to him or public safety at all.
The idea that knowing how important you are to so many people, that it's almost as though you feel like it has to be a validation to your self-worth. And I'm wondering if that's something that you're feeling right now.
I remember at first, like the first week or two after, I was still able to contact his dad, and I was texting his dad asking like if Chad was okay. And then I had to take a break and take a step back and ask, you know, wait, I almost lost my life in a brutal, brutal way. I had to stop and think, like, if I wouldn't have called the cops, my family could have found me that way. It took me a while before even deciding to press charges, because I had to actually put myself on the back burner and think, what if this happens to another woman? As much as I do care and love him, God forbid this happens to someone else.
There are people who are watching right here, right now in this moment, that you are normalizing and validating their experiences, and hopefully that gives them some semblance of strength and validity in their truth. So what you're doing is so important right now, and I'm just wondering what closure looks like for you.
I've thought about that. I actually think about that every day. Like, if I were to know why he did it, would that give me closure? Or if I were to know what could have been done to prevent it, even though there's nothing that could have been done, but I don't know, I have no idea what closure kind of looks like for me right now. I think that maybe getting to a point where I am close to being healthy and having some movement back in my arm, as I think about it, that might be close to closure for me right now.
I really want people to continue to rally behind you, and I want you to continue to speak your truth, if not for you, for everyone else who's looking towards you for support. So Aaliyah Taylor, I thank you so much for joining us on DBL.
Thanks for having me.
Wow, if you or someone you know is dealing with domestic violence, here are some phone numbers that can offer help. You can also visit thehotline.org. It is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It is confidential. And yesterday, DBL did reach out to Chad Wheeler's attorney via phone and email for a comment. At the time of this taping, we did not get a response. Erica joins us now. Erica, what a powerful and important interview. What do you think was the biggest takeaway after speaking to Aaliyah? What a brave woman.
Yeah, Aaliyah's grace under fire, and she's being incredibly brave, but this isn't easy. I think one of the biggest takeaways for me was what my concern was when we first talked about this story, that his narrative, what his needs were going to overshadow what the imminent issue was, which was the fact that she was the victim of a very, very brutal domestic violence incident. And what I didn't want to have happen is exactly what she said. You know, she was checking on him to make sure he was okay. And I think there's a response to do that for a Chad Wheeler, who was a white male in an NFL playing situation, and she would have fell by the wayside. I just want people to keep that same energy that they had when the NFL wasn't super quick to respond, when media outlets weren't super quick to report it, when he goes to his preliminary hearings, as well as when he goes to his hearing in June. I want people to keep that same energy.
Well said, Erica. Great work, and we stand with you, Aaliyah. Thank you for your bravery. We'll be right back.
The Verify team is here to get you the facts, dispelling misinformation spreading online. And we've seen a lot of questions about the latest stimulus checks. David from Maryland asked us this question. The last $600 stimulus checks were not subject to child supports and other garnishments. Are the $1,400 checks exempt as well? So let's verify. Can these checks be garnished by either the government or private debtors? Our sources are Henry Grez from the American Institute of CPAs, this letter from a coalition of financial associations, including the American Bankers Association, an emergency order from Maryland Governor Larry Hogan, and the bill itself, the American Rescue Plan. Grez tells us that the answer depends on the type of debt. Just like in the past, these stimulus checks cannot be garnished by the federal government or the IRS, but they can be garnished by private companies.
If you're behind on credit card payments and the credit card company has filed a judgment against you, they will be able to access that.
And our viewers aren't the only ones who noticed. 19 financial groups signed this letter to Secretary of the Treasury Janet Yellen, urging Congress to pass a standalone bill that would protect these checks from being garnished. So far, though, no such bill has been signed into law. But there is action on the state level. Governor Hogan just issued this emergency order saying that these payments are exempt from garnishment and that, quote, all financial institutions are ordered to consider these payments as protected. The governor's office told the Verify team that this only applies to banks that are doing business in the state who are subject to their oversight. So we can verify that yes, as of now, these checks can be garnished by private companies, although there are efforts on the state and federal level to stop this. With your Verify, I'm Evan Kozlov.
Back to DBL. A year later, many small business owners are still feeling the financial impact of the pandemic. We are sharing some tips to help in today's Bang for Your Buck. First, adapt to digital. Try marketing and selling online to maintain your sales and cut back on store costs. Second, study your stats. If products didn't sell selling prior to the pandemic, get rid of them. And third, invest in the best small business insurance. When it comes to your small business or any type of quality and affordable insurance, the Buck's got your back. The Hartford will be happy to provide you with solutions. Call 1-800-684-6085 or visit thehartford.com to learn more.
Those analytics.
It's been a rough year for small business.
Yeah. But
very.
I'll tell you this, and it was hard for me, and I'm sure it'll be like this for some viewers. Like looking at your chart, sometimes you'll have a down week and it's just a red arrow and you're like, I don't want to look at that.
Or a down quarter.
Right, or a down quarter.
I'm
talking to you like you don't know, and it's really depressing, but those analytics are so valuable. We've seen in sports, they recognize trends and when people buy and when the market, so those analytics are everything. That's a great tip.
Yeah, and I want to just give a shout out to my wife. It's our 5th year anniversary today, so happy anniversary. I'll clean up the mess I made before I left. I love you. And it's Michael Dean's birthday, too. Yeah, Michael Dean. Celebrate all around.
DBL is new every day. We'll see you guys tomorrow.
I love it.
Blast Live.
A DBL daytime exclusive. Aaliyah Taylor, the ex-girlfriend of former NFL player Chad Wheeler, opens up about the night she says he brutally beat her.
The moment he wrapped his fingers around my throat, that's when I thought, okay, I'm gonna die.
The controversy continues over Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion's provocative performance at the Grammys. Was it too sexy for the family-friendly awards show? Moms behaving badly, with one woman accused of creating deep-fake videos to frame cheerleading rivals. Plus, did another mom and her daughter really rig a high school homecoming court contest? And Glenn Close lands an Oscar and a Razzie nomination for the same role. Will she take home awards for being the best, but also the worst?
You've always got a reason. It's always someone else's fault.
Real, honest, entertaining, live. DBL starts right now.
3, 2.
Welcome to DBL. It is Tuesday, March 16th. I'm Sam here with Jeff and Al. Erica joins us from home. Now, first, we have coming up a DBL daytime exclusive. Aaliyah Taylor, the ex-girlfriend of former NFL player Chad Wheeler, opens up about the night. She says he brutally beat her. She's sharing her survival story to DBL in hopes of helping others. That is coming up. You do not want to miss it, and that'll be coming up a little later in the show. All right, so let's get right to it. Players on an Oklahoma high school girls basketball team are speaking out right now. They're reacting to a sports announcer calling them the N-word after they kneeled during the national anthem at a recent game. The announcer was caught on a hot mic using the offensive language. Listen. Wow. The announcer has apologized. He blamed the rant on a spike in his blood sugar, explaining that he suffers from type 1 diabetes. Meantime, some of the girls from the team talked about the comments during a press conference yesterday with their attorney, Ben Crump. Here's some of what they said.
I took a knee to stand against social injustice and racism. And when I first heard the news that our team was called the N-word, I was just in disbelief. And the broadcaster should be held accountable so something like this doesn't happen in the future.
The NFHS, the network that broadcast the game, released a statement saying, in part, quote, "We are aggressively investigating the incident and have immediately cut ties with the third-party production crew that was involved." They also said the network firmly condemns racism, hate, and discrimination. The girls' team did go on to win the state championship. Yes. Okay, so what do you all make of this? And what do you think of the announcer's explanation for his comments? Please write us in. Before we start, Al, I just want to say that we, as a show, we reached out to Dr. Pyle Coley. She's an expert when it comes to medicine, and we asked her about the diabetes excuse. She said, yes, if you produce a ton of insulin, you could get somehow foggy, but it doesn't make you racist. And that's someone that would be producing a ton of insulin. So then
she blocked your number for asking that silly question.
I know, but we
appreciate we do our due diligence on the show.
We have to, so yes, squash that. It's an excuse, a poor excuse. Shame on him. Go Al.
You know, it's a couple things. One, Jeff, and you know, you played high school sports at a high level. You played in college as well. Going to states is a big deal. Huge. It's something that will probably be the pinnacle of your athletic career, and that's a big deal in itself. And I think about 20 years from now, when they're girls now, women, when they get together and watch this thing and they're laughing like, look at your ponytail, they'll remember that this happened. So that was taken away from them, and that does make me sad. But you know what? It really makes me think about myself and the coming conversations I have to have with my young son about his interactions with the police and things like this. And it's something I keep putting off because I know that just like these girls, they're not going to be the same person going into that conversation as they are leaving. So I'm sorry this happened to these girls. I keep calling them girls, but they are girls actually. But I'm happy to say that a lot of these women have incredible Division I scholarships coming up, so they have a bright future.
They do. And before you chime in, I just want to get Erica in. Erica, considering that you've been very transparent on our show about situations where you have been called that horrific slur, what advice would you give to these young girls, considering, you know, that everything that you have gone through?
Oh, young queens, winning is the only answer. So kudos on that. Yeah, you continue to win, you continue to vibrate, you continue to level up because people are coming for you when you vibrate that high. This is very reminiscent of Don Imus calling the Rutgers basketball team nappy-headed hoes after their wins, the pinnacle of their success. And now we're having the conversation about racial slurs as opposed to some people who should be celebrating something really special and important. So win, always continue to win because no one can say jack when you win.
Yes, Erica, well said. Okay, so Jeff, there's more controversy over Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion's performance at the Grammys. People are very upset at the explicit song and dance. A lot of the performance was too graphic for daytime television, but here is a short portion that we're allowed to show you. Okay, the performance did include a warning, though, beforehand, that it may not be appropriate for small children, but other portions included the two women doing an intricate dance while intertwined all on top of a giant bed. Some folks are complaining that this performance was allowed to be broadcast nationally, but Mr. Potato Head was canceled. Others on Twitter commented, quote, "This performance was trashy for a show that is supposed to be family friendly." Another person wrote, "I am mortified for all who just witnessed what has happened to our society. Unacceptable unacceptable. But some defended the performance, saying, quote, "Don't want your kids seeing that. Be a parent. Don't let your kids see that." So DBL Nation, of course, we want to hear from you. In your opinion, was the performance too graphic, and should performances like this be canceled? Write us in on Facebook and YouTube, Jeff.
Well, glad you went to me first. I hate to be the old fuddy-duddy on the show, but to me, it's not. Listen, what am I supposed to say?
Now you are a fuddy-duddy.
I have to say fuddy-duddy because if I say anything else, I might be canceled. So I really have to walk on eggshells over here when I'm on air. I don't think it's classy. To me, it's not classy. I think CBS should be held to a higher standard. ABC just released Chris Harrison for an opinion he had on something. Some people agree with it, some people don't agree with it. It was an opinion. ABC had to let him go. CBS has fired people in this era, whether it be Me Too, Black Lives Matter, whatever it may be, have been fired. We put this on the air. Mr. Potato was a terrible example. Dr. Seuss is a better example because that's a visual. It wasn't anything written that was racist in Dr. Seuss. It was the pictures in Dr. Seuss. That was visual. They got canceled. The White House said you are no longer part of National Book Day. This is a visual that people see. I don't understand why we judge one thing and cancel it and the other thing. I'm not offended by it, okay? If I had daughters, I might be. I do want to say that. I have 2 sons. I wasn't offended by it, but I understand how people could be.
I'll just say this, Jeff, really quickly. The Dr. Seuss people pulled that book themselves. That was not canceled by the public.
No, but the White House took it off of National Book Day.
Those were not the popular ones anyway. So I just don't like. I want to hear from Erica.
I don't think that Erica chime in. I don't think. Listen, Jeff, I know you're not offended, but I don't think that we can compare sex or sex positivity. Even though I would not let my children watch it, so I'm with you, Jeff. However, I'm not going to compare sex positivity to racism. I understand why other people have been canceled. I don't think these women should be canceled because adults can watch this. This is sex positive.
I really think that we're conflating a lot of things. First of all, Meg Thee Stallion nor Cardi B called for the cancellation of Mr. Potato Head, so we can stop that conversation right now. I think that some things that could be conflated are the way that Janet Jackson was treated versus the way that we saw Madonna or Britney or Christina when they go down as one of the most iconic displays in history. So I think that this actually is like the pendulum swinging back. Like Janet slipped so Cardi B and Meg Thee Stallion could WAP. They're taking ownership over their art. They're taking ownership for people to see 2 black women or women of color really express themselves unapologetically in this way. And if people have a problem with it, just remember that there's a lot of songs out there that your kids are singing, and the moment that you tell them that it's something they can't do, they gravitate towards it. Remember parental advisories during the height of gangster rap? That backfired, so
Erica,
just keep that in mind.
The UFC was on this week. It was men fighting in a cage. It was a horrible eye injury. Jeff, did you watch the UFC this weekend? Would you let Lawson watch it?
Yeah, listen, I understand what you're saying,
and I'm genuinely asking.
We live in an era of cancel culture. I'm not trying to be racist here when Erica says 2 black women. I'm not comparing 2 black women. I'm not even comparing sexuality to this. Actually, I am a little bit if you're a young woman watching this, as if one of those people is your idol. I'm comparing it to we live in this whole society of cancel culture. Everything's being canceled. I understand Dr. Seuss racist. I'm not comparing racism to what Cardi B did. I'm not. You have to understand what I'm saying. You have to be very careful.
Wait, are you saying that Cardi's being canceled?
I don't want Cardi to be canceled either. Right. We are canceling things at a rapid rate, right? Whatever they may be, whatever it's for. Why is this okay to air and we're defending that? We're not even allowed to say the name of the song on this show. We can't even say the letters that it stands for. Right. If I say one of those words, if someone overheard me in an office setting say what that song was and someone reported me to HR, I would lose my job. This is the reality of what we're talking about.
But it was on at 10 o'clock at night because it's for adults. Just like when you go to Vegas.
It's on CBS, Al. It's not HBO.
But when you go to Vegas, you can go see a family show or you can go see a topless show. It's for adults and some are for families, and you make that decision.
Again, but we have to balance out society a little bit here. I totally get what you're saying, and I'm not even against Cardi B. I like Cardi B. But people, I know we gotta go.
This is a great conversation.
No, really good conversation. Okay, so coming up on the show, a daytime exclusive for DBL. Erica goes one-on-one with Aaliyah Taylor, the ex-girlfriend of a former pro football player accused of attacking her. We'll be right back.
Closed captioning provided by...
This is a Smile.
Drive-thrus have been booming during the pandemic, and restaurants are betting that will continue. Now they're using technology to predict what you'll order. Let's connect the dots. When the pandemic hit and restaurants faced restrictions, more places started upping their drive-thru game. That means Starbucks had workers walking car lines taking orders. Chipotle created Chipotlanes, where customers can grab pre-ordered food. And even Applebee's is testing its first drive-thru. Several big names are trying to improve the drive-thru experience with technology. For many, that means encouraging customers to order through apps to speed up the process and improve accuracy. Other restaurants have loyalty programs through their apps that reward customers with points for free food. And fast food giants like McDonald's and Burger King are turning to artificial intelligence to predict what you'll order. That means everything from suggesting iced coffee on a hot day to using Bluetooth technology to ID loyalty program members and ask if you want the same thing you ordered the last time. It's an improvement over screaming into a static-filled speaker in the drive-thru lane.
Welcome back to DBL. Before we get to a couple of stories about moms behaving badly, I have a correction to make. Clearly, I'm not a doctor. Our own Dr. Coley said, no, Sam, not insulin rising, but sugar. So if your sugar goes way up and you're diabetic, you can get foggy, never racist. So I just wanted to correct that. Sorry about that, Dr. Coley. Okay, so first, this Pennsylvania mom was arrested for conspiring to get her daughter's cheerleading rival kicked off the squad. The mom allegedly created deep fake videos of the teen vaping. Important to note, smoking is not allowed if you're on the cheerleading team. Speaking to GMA, the girl said she was shocked when her coach showed her the images. Have a look.
I went in the car and started crying and was like, that's not me on video, because I thought if I said it that no one would believe me, because obviously like there's proof, like it's a video, but the video was obviously manipulated.
Next, a mother, and we're going to talk about that, but we're going to show you both videos first. Next, a mother and daughter in Florida are accused of rigging a high school homecoming court election. The mother is an assistant principal, by the way, at an elementary school. The daughter allegedly used her mom's credentials to hack into the system in order to vote for herself as homecoming queen. The mom and daughter now face 3 felony charges related to the crime. Woo! Okay. You're shaking your head. Which one is more? They're both outrageous.
Well, I wonder how much pressure I mean, I don't know why I'm saying this, but I wonder how much pressure like high school kids have to do something so diabolical to get into the computer and make yourself homecoming queen just to feel that sense of pride. It's I worry about our high school and our younger kids.
I appreciate your empathy, because you immediately wondered, why is this child acting out, as opposed to criticizing the child. So yeah, I blame the parents as well.
I mean, it's like, obviously this is terrible.
It's the mama.
Yes, honey.
That's what it seems like, right, Erica? It seems like the mom is egging this on.
It doesn't seem like it. It is. It's That's the mama, okay? That's your mama.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, like, people, this is not about pressure. This is about pride and the idea of winning at all costs. Just remember, people, you never win when you play dirty. You might get a tiny little battle, but you're never gonna take home the war, okay? I'm just saying, these women are out here bored, clearly overstepping, overparenting, helicoptering, and wishing that they could live back their days of yore. You can't. It's over. Move on with your life and let your children be.
So what should happen
I do
then?
have a counterpoint to Erica.
Okay.
All right, Erica, it's a great bonding experience. All right, between mother and daughter, I'm just saying, they'll never forget. Be like, remember that time we robbed that bank? High five. Like, this is crazy. The deep fake, are we not going to discuss that?
Please, can we look at the photo of the deep fake again? Can we please, I know we only have a few seconds left, but let's just look at that deep fake. I mean, come on. How horrific that she's setting up this other, it doesn't even, I don't know. Wow, that's not even that good. You
and
can tell
that's
it's
the
a
worst
deep fake.
thing that they could have her do.
I know. Wow. Well, hopefully these moms will suffer the consequences and not the kids. We'll be right back.
Are the CDC, Dr. Linda Nabha, an infectious diseases expert with the University of Pittsburgh, and Dr. Namanje Bumpus from Johns Hopkins University, who says food allergies are not a concern here.
Food allergies are not contraindicated, milk allergy, egg allergy, any of that.
And Dr. Nabha told us that there's no reason a shellfish allergy should keep you from getting a vaccine.
Shellfish is okay.
The CDC agrees, saying that they recommend, quote, that people get vaccinated even if they have a history of severe allergic reactions not related to vaccine or injectable medications, such as food, pet, venom, environmental, or latex allergies. So we can verify that yes, if you have food allergies, you should still get a COVID-19 vaccine. With your Verify, I'm Evan Kozlov.
Welcome back to DBL. As COVID-19 vaccines get distributed globally, Oxford's AstraZeneca vaccine, which has not yet been approved for use in the U.S., has some controversy. Dr. Payal Kohli joins us live. And Doc, we wanted you to weigh in on this. A growing list of countries, including France, Italy, Spain, and Germany, have suspended the use of the vaccine amid concerns of blood clots. But the World Health Organization and the drug's developers say there is no evidence that that shot is to blame. So what do we know about the AstraZeneca vaccine right now? And what do you think about this degree of panic from these countries when health experts are warning against it?
So here's what we know. We know that over 70 million people have received the AstraZeneca vaccine, and we also know that only just over 30 have had this reaction with blood clots. Now keep in mind that this could just be a background level of blood clots that has nothing to do with the vaccine. So this could just be an association that these people got the vaccine, happened to have a blood clot they would have had anyways, and not necessarily a causation. So, you know, part of me, the physician part, is actually a little bit happy that we're looking so carefully at the data, that we're suspending administering more until we're absolutely sure that this is not a causal link. But the citizen part of me and the more rational part of me says this is a little bit of an overreaction. And the problem is that once the public loses confidence in the vaccine, it's going to be really hard to get them to trust it again. And this is a good vaccine.
All right, Doc, we got some good news on vaccines today as well for kids. The first ones are getting the Moderna vaccine as part of a new study. What could you tell us about this study?
So the way that this works, Jeff, is called age de-escalation. So you start with the adults, you make sure it's safe. Then you go to the adolescents, make sure it's safe. Then you go to the younger kids under 12 to make sure that it's safe for them. And so I'm really excited now that the vaccines have entered clinical trials for kids under 12. And this Moderna trial is 6,750 kids in the US and in Canada, 2 different age ranges, 2 to 12 and 6 months to 12. And what they're doing is they're trying different doses to try to find the right doses for our kids. So I'm hopeful that kids, even as young as 6 months, may have a vaccine once this trial completes.
All right, Doc. Well, this question is near and dear to my heart because I have 2 teenagers. I can't believe I'm saying that. And a 6-year-old.
Crazy.
Time is, man. Anyway, well, you know, we're talking about vaccines for kids. I want my kids, especially my teenagers, to have their teenage years, go to homecoming dances, all that good stuff. How long do you think before all kids will start getting any of the vaccines?
So it's a little hard to say, Al, until the clinical trials complete, but the good news is that the adolescent trials, like Pfizer, for example, already finished enrolling in January. So optimistically, by later this year, the adolescents, your teenagers could have a vaccine. Now, if you think about Sam's kids or Jeff's kids, they're a little bit younger. And since this trial just started today, they're looking at 12 months of data. So it's probably going to be next year for those kids younger than 12.
Wow, great information, as always, Dr. K. And you heard my correction earlier, right? Sorry for getting the insulin sugar wrong.
I did. No, you got it perfect.
After the fact. Thank you so much, Dr. Coley. We appreciate you, as always.
You had too much glucose, right? That's why you messed up.
That's exactly right.
And thank you for honoring that with a response, Doc. I would have just blocked her number. You're way more mature than me.
We'll be right back.
The Verify team is here to get you the facts, dispelling misinformation spreading online. And we've seen a lot of questions about the latest stimulus checks. David from Maryland asked us this question. The last $600 stimulus checks were not subject to child supports and other garnishments. Are the $1,400 checks exempt as well? So let's verify. Can these checks be garnished by either the government or private debtors? Our sources are Henry Grez from the American Institute of CPAs, this letter from a coalition of financial associations, including the American Bankers Association, an emergency order from Maryland Governor Larry Hogan, and the bill itself, the American Rescue Plan. Grez tells us that the answer depends on the type of debt. Just like in the past, these stimulus checks cannot be garnished by the federal government or the IRS, but they can be garnished by private companies.
If you're behind on credit card payments and the credit card company has filed a judgment against you, they will be able to access that.
And our viewers aren't the only ones who noticed. 19 financial groups signed this letter to Secretary of the Treasury Janet Yellen, urging Congress to pass a standalone bill that would protect these checks from being garnished. So far, though, no such bill has been signed into law. But there is action on the state level. Governor Hogan just issued this emergency order saying that these payments are exempt from garnishment and that, quote, all financial institutions are ordered to consider these payments as protected. The governor's office told the Verify team that this only applies to banks that are doing business in the state who are subject to their oversight. So we can verify that yes, as of now, these checks can be garnished by private companies, although there are efforts on the state and federal level to stop this. With your Verify, I'm Evan Kozlov.
Welcome back to DBL. We love sharing your comments. Okay, we got an email. See, we check email too. This is from Michelle. She says, I'm in the Seattle area and the Grammys aired starting at 5. I don't have kids in the house, but I did not want to see the performance. It went way over the line for a network family show. Why do these young women feel the need to do that? Now, 5 p.m. is a good point. I would,
that's a game changer.
That changes everything.
That's
if
a
you're
game changer.
watching with your children at 5 p.m. and you want to inspire your kids.
And you have expectations about what's on TV at 5 o'clock. I think after 9 o'clock, then it's kind of dicey. But up until then, I can understand any parent being like, hey, man, come on, dog.
Yeah. That's family hour. 5 p.m. is peak family hour. If you're leaving us, you can watch the second half of the show on Facebook or YouTube, but if you're sticking around, here's what's coming up on DBL. Erica speaks with Aaliyah Taylor, the brave young woman coming forward after alleging her ex-boyfriend, a former pro football player, attacked her. It's a daytime exclusive for DBL. Plus the dramatic season finale of The Bachelor, why everyone is still buzzing about it today, and a heartfelt thank you to our coworkers tuning in from home right now as they work so hard. We appreciate you all. DBL is new every day, and we will be right back.
Blast Live. We're talking about what you're talking about. Real, honest, entertaining, live. DBL starts right now.
3, 2.
Welcome to DBL. Oh, if you guys only saw our executive producer skipping and hopping as we counted in.
No, he was harassing our cameraman, Sam. Let's say. And first of all, Rob is back. We missed you this last week. You were seeing your family in New England, man. Love you, bro. Glad you're back.
Yes, we love you, Rob. Okay, so I'm Sam here with Jeff and Al. Erica joins us from home. Let's get right to it. The latest season of The Bachelor came to an end last night. Matt James gave his final rose to Rachel Kirkconnell. But during the After the Final Rose segment, hosted by Emmanuel Ocho, the two revealed they had broken up. Matt said it happened after Rachel's controversial photos taken at an old South Plantation party were made public. Speaking on GMA today, Matt talked about the breakup and the pressure he felt as the franchise's first Black Bachelor watch.
It hit me like a ton of bricks, you know. I felt the weight of everything that I was carrying throughout the season and with what we were dealing with as a country, and having to explain that, why it was problematic to me and our relationship, which was extremely difficult.
Wow. Also during the show, not one, but 2 new bachelorettes were announced. Matt's exes, Katie Thurston and Michelle Young, will have their own seasons back-to-back later this year. Okay, so this is very interesting because I feel like this couple is almost a microcosm of what's going on in this country today, right? And clearly her old South Plantation photos, and it seems like he hinted at perhaps some other issues where he couldn't dedicate all his time to like explain to her why things had directly affected him as a black man in America, and you know, it cost them their relationship. What do you make of that, Al? Yeah,
you know, I look at this and we can use this as a chance to analyze society in general, but I'd like to look at this as just with these 2 individuals. Both of the last 2 male and female black contestants didn't get to enjoy themselves. You know, I mean, you beat out 100,000 people. You are about to be the most famous single person in America, one of the most famous single people in the world, and you're talking about the Old South and Dixie, and is that okay, and is this racist? And it's just like, you wonder why black people die at such an early. It's because our minds can never rest. Even when you make it to the top, you still have to deal with this all the time, and you can never just be like, I'm the Bachelor, let's go get some champagne and get in the pool. We got a pool. You can never do that. Jeff, you were on a reality show, man. Talk to me.
Well, Al, I mean, I would think I was going to go where you were going with this. Earlier, you talked about you have to have that conversation about the N-word with your kids. It like broke my heart when you were saying that, right? And now, like you said, this guy gets to the top, he gets his dream, and he's got to deal with these photos now. He's not enjoying himself. Like, that was exactly where my mind went. He's not having a good time. Now he's got the controversy of the host not being the host anymore from his season. All this extra weight, not just being the first black man on the show, but all this extra weight that he doesn't need, and now he wishes almost, well, I don't want to speak for him, but it's like, I loved my time. I did some bad things, I did some great things, I met my wife, I loved my time on reality TV. I owe everything I have to that. How is he going to look back on this? I wonder. We shouldn't put so much pressure on him. I feel bad.
Erica, chime in.
Yeah, I mean, Al, you hit it. I couldn't have said that better. I really, when I think about Rachel Lindsay, who, you know, I mean, that's like my sister friend, okay? I really love her, and she is such an amazingly brilliant attorney, host, personality, and she really took a large brunt of that Chris Harrison fallout, something that had nothing to do with her. And with Matt was kind of in a lose-lose situation regardless, but for this all to come out and Rachel's actions in the past, and he picked her, so now that stench is on him as well, and now he's getting backlash for not staying the course. I don't think people understand that I do believe that this man is still protecting this woman in some way, and I'm not coming down on this girl, okay? I understand that what she did was, it represents so much bigger context of our history, but like in the grand scheme of things, it's not about her. Really, it's about him in this moment. He has to navigate these waters, and for him to say that they had a conversation and he wasn't comfortable with having to explain to her the context of how that affected him as a black man means that some things were said that meant that she had a fundamental misunderstanding of how life works, right, or how history actually evolved. And that's not up to someone who's only known you for 6 weeks to dismantle and help you rebuild that foundation. I think he's absolutely right. That work is up to her.
Well said, Erica. Okay, so Glenn Close has been nominated for an Oscar and a Razzie for the same role. How is that possible? The actress scored her 8th Oscar nod for her role in Hillbilly Elegy, but the role also earned her a Razzie nomination for Worst Supporting Actress. The movie Doolittle had the most Razzie nominations with 6, including Worst Actor for star Robert Downey Jr. How is that possible, Jeff? How can someone be nominated?
I'm glad you asked Jeff because he's an actor, so I want to know.
Jeff is an actor.
No, you've been a leading man. I'm not playing this with you. You're an actor.
Yes.
Go.
So, Jeff, how can somebody be nominated for an Oscar and then a Razzie?
It's the divide that we have in our country right now. It's what's going on, right? If someone puts you, I don't even want to say a pedestal, if someone celebrates you in some sort of way, half the people will love you, the other half are there to take you down. That's exactly what it is. So if you're not on the side of loving Robert Downey Jr. and I'm on this side, you're going to want to take me down with Robert Downey Jr. just because I'm not on your side. This is kind of a great example of what's going on in everything. It's a microcosm of what we're going through as a society.
When does your movie come out, the new one?
It comes out this, I don't know.
What do you think? This spring?
They got to finish editing it. Yeah, they got to finish editing it and stuff.
I'm excited.
And I don't know, like, I might earn my, no, let's just move on.
It's a big deal. You have big stars in this movie.
It's so annoying, Sam. Jeff just will not.
I know.
You're just like, when's your movie? I don't know.
He's humble.
What? I heard you guys.
Let's watch it first.
Yeah, I'm like, dude. Jeff,
Can't
you're
wait.
a cool guy, man.
We will do a screening here.
Yes.
Coming up on DBL, a daytime exclusive for DBL. Aaliyah Taylor tells our very own Erica what it was like surviving an alleged attack at the hands of her ex-boyfriend, a former NFL player. Do not go away.
Tomorrow on DBL, former Miss America, Nina Davuluri. She made history as the first woman of South Asian descent to win the crown and tells us why the fight against colorism isn't over.
Colorism is this ideology that's very toxic, that lighter skin is more ideal, more elite.
That's tomorrow only on DBL.
Drive-thrus have been booming during the pandemic, and restaurants are betting that will continue. Now they're using technology to predict what you'll order. Let's connect the dots. When the pandemic hit and restaurants faced restrictions, more places started upping their drive-thru game. That means Starbucks had workers walking car lines taking orders. Chipotle created Chipotle lanes, where customers can grab pre-ordered food. And even Applebee's is testing its first drive-thru. Several big names are trying to improve the drive-thru experience with technology. For many, that means encouraging customers to order through apps to speed up the process and improve accuracy. Other restaurants have loyalty programs through their apps that reward customers with points for free food. And fast food giants like McDonald's and Burger King are turning to artificial intelligence to predict what you'll order. That means everything from suggesting iced coffee on a hot day to using Bluetooth technology to ID loyalty program members and ask if you want the same thing you ordered the last time. It's an improvement over screaming into a static-filled speaker in the drive-thru lane.
Welcome back to DBL. Her bruises may be gone, but her strength isn't. It's been a month since Aaliyah Taylor first told the world that her ex-boyfriend, former NFL player Chad Wheeler, strangled her and left her for dead. Chad has pleaded not guilty to the charges and will go on trial for the alleged assault in June. But before that happens, Aaliyah told us she is speaking her truth. Erica spoke with her earlier in her first daytime interview, making it a DBL exclusive. And a warning, some of the images you are about to see are disturbing and may be triggering to some.
Please help me now. Oh, my arm's dislocated. Sir, have them come in this room now.
Aaliyah, welcome to DBL.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
You were very public last month and you told your story. So before we get started on the specifics of what happened that day, why are you continuing to speak out in this moment?
Before I worked in media, and it was always very important for me to speak on uncomfortable situations, speak on uncomfortable topics, and create a safe space for people to have conversations like this. And so with this happening to me, I'm just like, I just want to be able to create empowering conversations and educate people about it, and also be able to talk about the healing process. Unfortunately, it's something that happens so often. I didn't know it happened so often until it happened to me. It's not easy for me, and not everyone is blessed with a support system like me. So if I could try to help other people go through this, then I will.
Well, it's very important that it's not forgotten, because obviously your ex-boyfriend, Chad Wheeler, is going to court to stand these charges for your assault. So for those people who may not be familiar with your case, let's walk through the events that happened on January 22nd. You receive a message from Chad, and that was via text. What happened once you got home?
Yeah, when I got home, he was very emotional, crying a lot. And I just tried to console him, try to talk with him. We talk a lot about anything. We're like best friends. So this happened for a few hours on and off. He was crying. And eventually he went into my room, and I went to go check on him. And he was sitting on the ground, and he stood up and got really close to me and told me to bow down. And I asked him why. It was very, he's never asked me to bow down or do anything like that or had that kind of tone with me. So it scared me a lot. And he told me to bow down again. I refused, and that's when he began attacking me.
What is it that's happening? I'm being killed.
So we know that you had significant injuries from this attack, things that you'll have to live with for the rest of your life, I understand?
Yeah, unfortunately, I have a concussion, anxiety, my left arm, the elbow was dislocated and the humerus was broken. So I have a lot of therapy, a lot of healing to do from that.
And you have been very transparent about your experience both that night and beyond. But that night, what did you think the outcome was going to be?
In my mind, thinking, he's very emotional. He just had a hard trip in LA, he maybe just needs to, cry it out, get it out of his system, and we'll be on vacay the next morning, the next day, and it'll be okay. And it's a safe space at my house. So I just figured, that was it. The moment he wrapped his fingers around my throat, that's when I thought, okay, I'm gonna die. I didn't think I was gonna make it as soon as he had started strangling me.
When we come back, we'll chat more with Aaliyah and hear from her what she believes is true justice. Stay tuned.
Nearly 110 million people were victims of cybercrime last year. There was a victim of identity theft every 3 seconds.
Somebody ran over $50,000 in my name.
This hack.
Welcome back to DBL. We are continuing our conversation with Aaliyah Taylor, the woman who says she was brutally beaten by her ex-boyfriend, former NFL player Chad Wheeler. Days after the alleged attack, Chad tweeted an apology saying, quote, "Events happened over the weekend that transpired from a manic episode." But Aaliyah questions that theory. Here's what she told Erica in DBL's daytime exclusive interview. And a warning, some of the images you are about to see are disturbing and may be triggering to some.
One of the main points that people were talking about was his mental health, even though you were the actual victim, and that became the narrative. After that event, because there were some things that we didn't hear about, what made you feel like it could have possibly have been not about his mental health?
Questions that I'm asking you.
It did seem like there were character changes, but again, I'm not a psychologist. I don't know how these things work. I mean, when I was in the bathroom calling them for 911, he didn't check on me and ask if I was okay. But when the police came, they had pushed him into the bathtub. He asked the cops if they were okay, and hearing that kind of broke my heart a little bit, because you asked the cops if they're okay, but you didn't check on me. So that was kind of hard hearing.
Anyone who's had proximity to domestic violence knows that it's a very intimate and complicated issue, but at the end of the day, there is a victim, and that victim should be the person who receives the first concern. So do you feel like going to prison is something that should happen in the future?
I do think so, just because this isn't the first run-in he's had with the cops in a violent manner. I just feel like he needs to understand the consequences of what he did. He almost took my life, and he knows how important I am to so many people in such a brutal way. And then he expected to go on vacay still, which was odd, being in court hearing that he still wanted to go to Hawaii after. I just don't think that he fully understands the consequences. I just don't think that him not going would be beneficial to him or public safety at all.
The idea that knowing how important you are to so many people, that it's almost as though you feel like it has to be a validation to your self-worth. And I'm wondering if that's something that you're feeling right now.
I remember at first, the first week or two after, I was still able to contact his dad, and I was texting his dad asking if Chad was okay. And then I had to take a break and take a step back and ask, wait, I almost lost my life in a brutal, brutal way. I had to stop and think, if I wouldn't have called the cops, my family could have found me that way. It took me a while before even deciding to press charges, because I had to actually put myself on the back burner and think, what if this happens to another woman? As much as I do care and love him, God forbid this happens to someone else.
There are people who are watching right here, right now in this moment, that you are normalizing and validating their experiences, and hopefully that gives them some semblance of strength and validity in their truth. So what you're doing is so important right now, and I'm just wondering what closure looks like for you.
I've thought about that. I actually think about that every day. If I were to know why he did it, would that give me closure? Or if I were to know what could have been done to prevent it, even though there's nothing that could have been done, but I don't know, I have no idea what closure kind of looks like for me right now. I think that maybe getting to a point where I am close to being healthy and having some movement back in my arm, as I think about it, that might be close to closure for me right now.
I really want people to continue to rally behind you, and I want you to continue to speak your truth, if not for you, for everyone else who's looking towards you for support. So Aaliyah Taylor, I thank you so much for joining us on DBL.
Thanks for having me.
Wow, if you or someone you know is dealing with domestic violence, here are some phone numbers that can offer help. You can also visit thehotline.org. It is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It is confidential. And yesterday, DBL did reach out to Chad Wheeler's attorney via phone and email for a comment. At the time of this taping, we did not get a response. Erica joins us now. Erica, what a powerful and important interview. What do you think was the biggest takeaway after speaking to Aaliyah? What a brave woman.
Yeah, Aaliyah's grace under fire, and she's being incredibly brave, but this isn't easy. I think one of the biggest takeaways for me was what my concern was when we first talked about this story, that his narrative, what his needs were going to overshadow what the imminent issue was, which was the fact that she was the victim of a very, very brutal domestic violence incident. And what I didn't want to have happen is exactly what she said. You know, she was checking on him to make sure he was okay. And I think there's a response to do that for a Chad Wheeler who was a white male in an NFL playing situation, and she would have fell by the wayside. I just want people to keep that same energy that they had when the NFL wasn't super quick to respond, when media outlets weren't super quick to report it, when he goes to his preliminary hearings, as well as when he goes to his hearing in June. I want people to keep that same energy.
Well said, Erica. Great work, and we stand with you, Aaliyah. Thank you for your bravery. We'll be right back.
Promotional consideration is brought to you by
The Verify team is here to get you the facts, dispelling misinformation spreading online. And we've seen a lot of questions about the latest stimulus checks. David from Maryland asked us this question. The last $600 stimulus checks were not subject to child supports and other garnishments. Are the $1,400 checks exempt as well? So let's verify. Can these checks be garnished by either the government or private debtors? Our sources are Henry Grez from the American Institute of CPAs, this letter from a coalition of financial associations, including the American Bankers Association, an emergency order from Maryland Governor Larry Hogan, and the bill itself, the American Rescue Plan. Grez tells us that the answer depends on the type of debt. Just like in the past, these stimulus checks cannot be garnished by the federal government or the IRS, but they can be garnished by private companies.
If you're behind on credit card payments and the credit card company has filed a judgment against you, they will be able to access that.
And our viewers aren't the only ones who noticed. 19 financial groups signed this letter to Secretary of the Treasury Janet Yellen, urging Congress to pass a standalone bill that would protect these checks from being garnished. So far, though, no such bill has been signed into law. But there is action on the state level. Governor Hogan just issued this emergency order saying that these payments are exempt from garnishment and that, quote, all financial institutions are ordered to consider these payments as protected. The governor's office told the Verify team that this only applies to banks that are doing business in the state who are subject to their oversight. So we can verify that yes, as of now, these checks can be garnished by private companies, although there are efforts on the state and federal level to stop this. With your Verify, I'm Evan Kozlov.
Welcome back to DBL. A year later, many small business owners are still feeling the financial impact of the pandemic. We are sharing some tips to help in today's Bang for Your Buck. First, adapt to digital. Try marketing and selling online to maintain your sales and cut back on store costs. Second, study your stats. If products didn't sell selling prior to the pandemic, get rid of them. And third, invest in the best small business insurance. When it comes to your small business or any type of quality and affordable insurance, the Buck's got your back. The Hartford will be happy to provide you with solutions. Call 1-800-684-6085 or visit thehartford.com to learn more.
Those analytics.
It's been a rough year for small business.
Yeah. But
very.
I'll tell you this, and it was hard for me, and I'm sure it'll be like this for some viewers. Like looking at your chart, sometimes you'll have a down week and it's just a red arrow and you're like, I don't want to look at that.
Or a down quarter.
Right, or a down quarter.
I'm
talking to you like you don't know, and it's really depressing, but those analytics are so valuable. We've seen it in sports. They recognize trends and when people buy and when the market, so those analytics are everything. That's a great tip.
Yeah, and I want to just give a shout out to my wife. It's our 5th year anniversary today, so happy anniversary. I'll clean up the mess I made before I left. I love you. And it's Michael Dean's birthday, too. Yeah, Michael Dean. Celebrate all around.
DBL is new every day. We'll see you guys tomorrow.
I love it.
Live.
A DBL daytime exclusive. Aaliyah Taylor, the ex-girlfriend of former NFL player Chad Wheeler, opens up about the night she says he brutally beat her.
The moment he wrapped his fingers around my throat, that's when I thought, okay, I'm gonna die.
The controversy continues over Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion's provocative performance at the Grammys. Was it too sexy for the family-friendly awards show? Moms behaving badly, with one woman accused of creating deep fake videos to frame cheerleading rivals. Plus, did another mom and her daughter really rig a high school homecoming court contest? And Glenn Close lands an Oscar and a Razzie nomination for the same role. Will she take home awards for being the best, but also the worst?
You've always got a reason. It's always someone else's fault.
Real, honest, entertaining, live. DBL starts right now.
3, 2.
Welcome to DBL. It is Tuesday, March 16th. I'm Sam here with Jeff and Al. Erica joins us from home. Now, first, we have coming up a DBL daytime exclusive. Aaliyah Taylor, the ex-girlfriend of former NFL player Chad Wheeler, opens up about the night she says he brutally beat her. She's sharing her survival story to DBL in hopes of helping others. That is coming up. You do not want to miss it, and that'll be coming up a little later in the show. All right, so let's get right to it. Players on an Oklahoma high school girls basketball team are speaking out right now. They're reacting to a sports announcer calling them the N-word after they kneeled during the national anthem at a recent game. The announcer was caught on a hot mic using the offensive language. Listen. Wow. The announcer has apologized. He blamed the rant on a spike in his blood sugar, explaining that he suffers from type 1 diabetes. Meantime, some of the girls from the team talked about the comments during a press conference yesterday with their attorney, Ben Crump. Here's some of what they said.
I took a knee to stand against social injustice and racism. And when I first heard the news that our team was called the N-word, I was just in disbelief. And the broadcaster should be held accountable so something like this doesn't happen in the future.
The NFHS, the network that broadcasts the game, released a statement saying, in part, quote, "We are aggressively investigating the incident and have immediately cut ties with the third-party production crew that was involved." They also said the network firmly condemns racism, hate, and discrimination. The girls' team did go on to win the state championship. Yes. Okay, so what do you all make of this? And what do you think of the announcer's explanation for his comments? Please write us in. Before we start, Al, I just want to say that we, as a show, we reached out to Dr. Pyle Coley. She's an expert when it comes to medicine, and we asked her about the diabetes excuse. She said, yes, if you produce a ton of insulin, you could get somehow foggy, but it doesn't make you racist. And that's someone that would be producing a ton of insulin. So
then she blocked your number for asking that silly question.
But we
appreciate we do our due diligence on the show.
We have to, so yes, squash that. It's an excuse, a poor excuse. Shame on him. Go out.
You know, it's a couple things. One, Jeff, and you know, you played high school sports at a high level. You played in college as well. Going to states is a big deal. Huge. It's something that will probably be the pinnacle of your athletic career, and that's a big deal in itself. And I think about 20 years from now, when they're girls now, women, when they get together and watch this thing and they're laughing like, look at your ponytail, they'll remember that this happened. So that was taken away from them, and that does make me sad. But you know what? It really makes me think about myself and the coming conversations I have to have with my young son about his interactions with the police and things like this. And it's something I keep putting off because I know that just like these girls, they're not going to be the same person going into that conversation as they are leaving. So I'm sorry this happened to these girls. I keep calling them girls, but they are girls actually. But I'm happy to say that a lot of these women have incredible Division I scholarships coming up, so they have a bright future.
They do. And before you chime in, I just want to get Erica in. Erica, considering that you've been very transparent on our show about situations where you have been called that horrific slur, what advice would you give to these young girls, considering, you know, that everything that you have gone through?
Oh, young queens, winning is the only answer. So kudos on that. Yeah, you continue to win, you continue to vibrate, you continue to level up because people are coming for you when you vibrate that high. This is very reminiscent of Don Imus calling the Rutgers basketball team nappy-headed hoes after their wins, the pinnacle of their success. And now we're having the conversation about racial slurs as opposed to some people who should be celebrating something really special and important. So win, always continue to win because no one can say jack when you win.
Yes, Erica, well said. Okay, so Jeff, there's more controversy over Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion's performance at the Grammys. People are very upset at the explicit song and dance. A lot of the performance was too graphic for daytime television, but here is a short portion that we're allowed to show you. Okay, the performance did include a warning, though, beforehand, that it may not be appropriate for small children, but other portions included the two women doing an intricate dance while intertwined, all on top of a giant bed. Some folks are complaining that this performance was allowed to be broadcast nationally, but Mr. Potato Head was canceled. Others on Twitter commented, quote, "This performance was trashy for a show that is supposed to be family friendly." Another person wrote, "I am mortified for all who just witnessed what has happened to our society. Unacceptable unacceptable. But some defended the performance, saying, quote, "Don't want your kids seeing that. Be a parent. Don't let your kids see that." So DBL Nation, of course, we want to hear from you. In your opinion, was the performance too graphic, and should performances like this be canceled? Write us in on Facebook and YouTube, Jeff.
Well, glad you went to me first. I hate to be the old fuddy-duddy on the show, but to me, it's not. Listen, what am I supposed to say?
Now you are a fuddy-duddy.
I have to say fuddy-duddy because if I say anything else, I might be canceled. So I really have to walk on eggshells over here when I'm on air. I don't think it's classy. To me, it's not classy. I think CBS should be held to a higher standard. ABC just released Chris Harrison for an opinion he had on something. Some people agree with it, some people don't agree with it. It was an opinion. ABC had to let him go. CBS has fired people in this era, whether it be Me Too, Black Lives Matter, whatever it may be, have been fired. We put this on the air. Mr. Potato was a terrible example. Dr. Seuss is a better example because that's a visual. It wasn't anything written that was racist in Dr. Seuss. It was the pictures in Dr. Seuss. That was visual. They got canceled. The White House said you are no longer part of National Book Day. This is a visual that people see. I don't understand why we judge one thing and cancel it and the other thing. I'm not offended by it, okay? If I had daughters, I might be. I do want to say that. I have two sons. I wasn't offended by it, but I understand how people could be.
I'll just say this, Jeff, really quickly. The Dr. Seuss people pulled that book themselves. That was not canceled by the public.
But the White House took it off of National Book Day.
Those were not the popular ones anyway. So I just don't like. I want to hear from Erica.
I don't think that Erica chime in. I don't think. Listen, Jeff, I know you're not offended, but I don't think that we can compare sex or sex positivity. Even though I would not let my children watch it, so I'm with you, Jeff. However, I'm not going to compare sex positivity to racism. I understand why other people have been canceled. I don't think these women should be canceled because adults can watch this. This is sex positive.
I really think that we're conflating a lot of things. First of all, Meg Thee Stallion nor Cardi B called for the cancellation of Mr. Potato Head, so we can stop that conversation right now. I think that some things that could be conflated are the way that Janet Jackson was treated versus the way that we saw Madonna or Britney or Christina when they go down as one of the most iconic displays in history. So I think that this actually is like the pendulum swinging back. Like Janet slipped so Cardi B and Meg Thee Stallion could WAP. They're taking ownership over their art. They're taking ownership for people to see two black women or women of color really express themselves unapologetically in this way. And if people have a problem with it, just remember that there's a lot of songs out there that your kids are singing, and the moment that you tell them that it's something they can't do, they gravitate towards it. Remember parental advisories during the height of gangster rap? That backfired, so
Erica,
just keep that in mind.
The UFC was on this week. It was men fighting in a cage. There was a horrible eye injury. Jeff, did you watch the UFC this weekend? Would you let Lawson watch it?
Yeah, listen, I understand what you're saying,
and I'm genuinely asking.
We live in an era of cancel culture. I'm not trying to be racist here when Erica says two black women. I'm not comparing two black women. I'm not even comparing sexuality to this. Actually, I am a little bit if you're a young woman watching this, as if one of those people is your idol. I'm comparing it to we live in this whole society of cancel culture. Everything's being canceled. I understand Dr. Seuss racist. I'm not comparing racism to what Cardi B did. I'm not. You have to understand what I'm saying. You have to be very careful.
Wait, are you saying that Cardi's been canceled?
I don't want Cardi to be canceled either. Right. We are canceling things at a rapid rate, right? Whatever they may be, whatever it's for. Why is this okay to air and we're defending that? We're not even allowed to say the name of the song on this show. We can't even say the letters that it stands for. Right. If I say one of those words, if someone overheard me in an office setting say what that song was and someone reported me to HR, I would lose my job. This is the reality of what we're talking about.
But it was on at 10 o'clock at night because it's for adults. Just like when you go to Vegas.
It's on CBS, Al. It's not HBO.
But when you go to Vegas, you can go see a family show or you can go see a topless show. It's for adults and some are for families, and you make that decision.
Again, but we have to balance out society a little bit here. I totally get what you're saying, and I'm not even against Cardi B. I like Cardi B, but people, I know we gotta go.
This is a great conversation.
Really good conversation. Okay, so coming up on the show, a daytime exclusive for DBL. Erica goes one-on-one with Aaliyah Taylor, the ex-girlfriend of a former pro football player accused of attacking her. We'll be right back. Closed cap.
Drive-thrus have been booming during the pandemic, and restaurants are betting that will continue. Now they're using technology to predict what you'll order. Let's connect the dots. When the pandemic hit and restaurants faced restrictions, more places started upping their drive-thru game. That means Starbucks had workers walking car lines taking orders. Chipotle created Chipotlanes, where customers can grab pre-ordered food. And even Applebee's is testing its first drive-thru. Several big names are trying to improve the drive-thru experience with technology. For many, that means encouraging customers to order through apps to speed up the process and improve accuracy. Other restaurants have loyalty programs through their apps that reward customers with points for free food. And fast food giants like McDonald's and Burger King are turning to artificial intelligence to predict what you'll order. That means everything from suggesting iced coffee on a hot day to using Bluetooth technology to ID loyalty program members and ask if you want the same thing you ordered the last time. It's an improvement over screaming into a static-filled speaker in the drive-thru lane.
Welcome back to DBL. Before we get to a couple of stories about moms behaving badly, I have a correction to make. Clearly, I'm not a doctor. Our own Dr. Coley said, no, Sam, not insulin rising, but sugar. So if your sugar goes way up and you're diabetic, you can get foggy, never racist. So I just wanted to correct that. Sorry about that, Dr. Coley. Okay, so first, this Pennsylvania mom was arrested for conspiring to get her daughter's cheerleading rival kicked off the squad. The mom allegedly created deep fake videos of the teen vaping. Important to note, smoking is not allowed if you're on the cheerleading team. Speaking to GMA, the girl said she was shocked when her coach showed her the images. Have a look.
I went in the car and started crying and was like, that's not me on video, because I thought if I said it that no one would believe me, because obviously like there's proof, like it's a video, but the video was obviously manipulated.
Next, a mother, and we're going to talk about that, but we're going to show you both videos first. Next, a mother and daughter in Florida are accused of rigging a high school homecoming court election. The mother is an assistant principal, by the way, at an elementary school. The daughter allegedly used her mom's credentials to hack into the system in order to vote for herself as homecoming queen. The mom and daughter now face 3 felony charges related to the crime. Woo! Okay. You're shaking your head. Which one is more? They're both outrageous.
Well, I wonder how much pressure kids, I mean, I don't know why I'm saying this, but I wonder how much pressure like high school kids have to do something so diabolical, to get into the computer and make yourself homecoming queen just to feel that sense of pride. It's I worry about our high school and our younger kids.
I appreciate your empathy, because you immediately wondered, why is this child acting out, as opposed to criticizing the child. So yeah, I blame the parents as well.
I mean, it's like, obviously this is terrible.
It's the mama.
Yes, honey.
That's what it seems like, right, Erica? It seems like the mom is egging this on.
It doesn't seem like it. It is. It's the mama, okay? That's your mama.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, like, people, this is not about pressure. This is about pride and the idea of winning at all costs. Just remember, people, you never win when you play dirty. You might get a tiny little battle, but you're never gonna take home the war, okay? I'm just saying, these women are out here bored, clearly overstepping, overparenting, helicoptering, and wishing that they could live back their days of yore. You can't. It's over. Move on with your life and let your children be.
So what should happen?
I do have a counter want to point to Erica.
Okay.
All right, Erica, it's a great bonding experience. All right, between mother and daughter, I'm just saying, they'll never forget. Be like, remember that time we robbed that bank? High five. Like, this is crazy. The deep fake, are we not going to discuss that?
Please, can we look at the photo of the deep fake again? Can we please, I know we only have a few seconds left, but let's just look at that deep fake. I mean, come on. How horrific that she's setting up this other, it doesn't even, I don't know. Wow, that's not even that good. You can tell it's a deep fake.
And that's the worst thing that they could have her do.
I know. Wow. Well, hopefully these moms will suffer the consequences and not the kids. We'll be right back.
Are you 50 or over? Let's take a ride and talk with some folks.
Are the CDC, Dr. Linda Nabha, an infectious diseases expert with the University of Pittsburgh, and Dr. Namanje Bumpus from Johns Hopkins University, who says food allergies are not a concern here.
Food allergies are not contraindicated, milk allergy, egg allergy, any of that.
And Dr. Nabha told us that there's no reason a shellfish allergy should keep you from getting a vaccine.
Shellfish is okay.
The CDC agrees, saying that they recommend, quote, that people get vaccinated even if they have a history of severe allergic reactions not related to vaccine or injectable medications, such as food, pet, venom, environmental, or latex allergies. So we can verify that yes, if you have food allergies, you should still get a COVID-19 vaccine. With your Verify, I'm Evan Kozlov.
Welcome back to DBL. As COVID-19 vaccines get distributed globally, Oxford's AstraZeneca vaccine, which has not yet been approved for use in the U.S., has some controversy. Dr. Payal Kohli joins us live. And Doc, we wanted you to weigh in on this. A growing list of countries, including France, Italy, Spain, and Germany, have suspended the use of the vaccine amid concerns of blood clots. But the World Health Organization and the drug's developers say there is no evidence that that shot is to blame. So what do we know about the AstraZeneca vaccine right now? And what do you think about this degree of panic from these countries when health experts are warning against it?
So here's what we know. We know that over 70 million people have received the AstraZeneca vaccine, and we also know that only just over 30 have had this reaction with blood clots. Now keep in mind that this could just be a background level of blood clots that has nothing to do with the vaccine. So this could just be an association that these people got the vaccine, happened to have a blood clot they would have had anyways, and not necessarily a causation. So, you know, part of me, the physician part, is actually a little bit happy that we're looking so carefully at the data, that we're suspending administering more until we're absolutely sure that this is not a causal link. But the citizen part of me and the more rational part of me says this is a little bit of an overreaction. And the problem is that once the public loses confidence in the vaccine, it's going to be really hard to get them to trust it again. And this is a good vaccine.
All right, Doc, we got some good news on vaccines today as well for kids. The first ones are getting the Moderna vaccine as part of a new study. What could you tell us about this study?
So the way that this works, Jeff, is called age de-escalation. So you start with the adults, you make sure it's safe. Then you go to the adolescents, make sure it's safe. Then you go to the younger kids under 12 to make sure that it's safe for them. And so I'm really excited now that the vaccines have entered clinical trials for kids under 12. And this Moderna trial is 6,750 kids in the US and in Canada, 2 different age ranges, 2 to 12 and 6 months to 12. And what they're doing is they're trying different doses to try to find the right doses for our kids. So I'm hopeful that kids, even as young as 6 months, may have a vaccine once this trial completes.
All right, Doc. Well, this question is near and dear to my heart because I have 2 teenagers. I can't believe I'm saying that. And a 6-year-old.
Crazy.
Time is, man. Anyway, well, you know, we're talking about vaccines for kids. I want my kids, especially my teenagers, to have their teenage years, go to homecoming dances, all that good stuff. How long do you think before all kids will start getting any of the vaccines?
So it's a little hard to say, Al, until the clinical trials complete, but the good news is that the adolescent trials, like Pfizer, for example, already finished enrolling in January. So optimistically, by later this year, the adolescents, your teenagers could have a vaccine. Now, if you think about Sam's kids or Jeff's kids, they're a little bit younger. And since this trial just started today, they're looking at 12 months of data. So it's probably going to be next year for those kids younger than 12.
Wow, great information, as always, Dr. K. And you heard my correction earlier, right? Sorry for getting the insulin sugar wrong.
I did. No, you got it perfect.
After the fact. Thank you so much, Dr. Coley. We appreciate you, as always.
You had too much glucose, right? That's why you messed up.
That's exactly right.
And thank you for honoring that with a response, Doc. I would have just blocked her number. You're way more mature than me.
We'll be right back.
The Verify team is here to get you the facts, dispelling misinformation spreading online. And we've seen a lot of questions about the latest stimulus checks. David from Maryland asked us this question. The last $600 stimulus checks were not subject to child supports and other garnishments. Are the $1,400 checks exempt as well? So let's verify. Can these checks be garnished by either the government or private debtors? Our sources are Henry Grez from the American Institute of CPAs, this letter from a coalition of financial associations, including the American Bankers Association, an emergency order from Maryland Governor Larry Hogan, and the bill itself, the American Rescue Plan. Grez tells us that the answer depends on the type of debt. Just like in the past, these stimulus checks cannot be garnished by the federal government or the IRS, but they can be garnished by private companies.
If you're behind on credit card payments and the credit card company has filed a judgment against you, they will be able to access that.
And our viewers aren't the only ones who noticed. 19 financial groups signed this letter to Secretary of the Treasury Janet Yellen, urging Congress to pass a standalone bill that would protect these checks from being garnished. So far, though, no such bill has been signed into law. But there is action on the state level. Governor Hogan just issued this emergency order saying that these payments are exempt from garnishment and that, quote, all financial institutions are ordered to consider these payments as protected. The governor's office told the Verify team that this only applies to banks that are doing business in the state who are subject to their oversight. So we can verify that yes, as of now, these checks can be garnished by private companies, although there are efforts on the state and federal level to stop this. With your Verify, I'm Evan Kozlov.
Welcome back to DBL. We love sharing your comments. Okay, we got an email. See, we check email too. This is from Michelle. She says, I'm in the Seattle area and the Grammys aired starting at 5. I don't have kids in the house, but I did not want to see the performance. It went way over the line for a network family show. Why do these young women feel the need to do that? Now, 5 p.m. is a good point. I would,
that's a game changer.
That changes everything.
That's
if you're watching with your children at 5 p.m. and you want to inspire your kids.
And you have expectations about what's on TV at 5 o'clock. I think after 9 o'clock, then it's kind of dicey. But up until then, I can understand any parent being like, hey, man, come on, dog.
Yeah. That's family hour. 5 p.m. is peak family hour. If you're leaving us, you can watch the second half of the show on Facebook or YouTube, but if you're sticking around, here's what's coming up on DBL. Erica speaks with Aaliyah Taylor, the brave young woman coming forward after alleging her ex-boyfriend, a former pro football player, attacked her. It's a daytime exclusive for DBL. Plus the dramatic season finale of The Bachelor, why everyone is still buzzing about it today, and a heartfelt thank you to our co-workers tuning in from home right now as they work so hard. We appreciate you all. DBL is new every day, and we will be right back.
About what you're talking about. Real, honest, entertaining, live. DBL starts right now.
3, 2.
Welcome to DBL. Oh, if you guys only saw our executive producer skipping and hopping as we counted in.
No, he was harassing our cameraman, Sam. Let's say. And first of all, Rob is back. We missed you this last week. You were seeing your family in New England, man. Love you, bro. Glad you're back.
Yes, we love you, Rob. Okay, so I'm Sam here with Jeff and Al. Erica joins us from home. Let's get right to it. The latest season of The Bachelor came to an end last night. Matt James gave his final rose to Rachel Kirkconnell. But during the After the Final Rose segment, hosted by Emmanuel Acho, the two revealed they had broken up. Matt said it happened after Rachel's controversial photos taken at an Old South plantation party were made public. Speaking on GMA today, Matt talked about the breakup and the pressure he felt as the franchise's first Black Bachelor watch.
It hit me like a ton of bricks, you know. I felt the weight of everything that I was carrying throughout the season and with what we were dealing with as a country, and having to explain that, why it was problematic to me and our relationship, which was extremely difficult.
Wow. Also during the show, not one, but 2 new bachelorettes were announced. Matt's exes, Katie Thurston and Michelle Young, will have their own seasons back-to-back later this year. Okay, so this is very interesting because I feel like this couple is almost a microcosm of what's going on in this country today, right? And clearly her old South Plantation photos, and it seems like he hinted at perhaps some other issues where he couldn't dedicate all his time to like explain to her why things had directly affected him as a black man in America, and you know, it cost them their relationship. What do you make of that, Al?
Yeah, you know, I look at this and we can use this as a chance to analyze society in general, but I'd like to look at this as just with these 2 individuals. Both of the last 2 male and female black contestants didn't get to enjoy themselves. You know, I mean, you beat out 100,000 people. You are about to be the most famous single person in America, one of the most famous single people in the world, and you're talking about the Old South and Dixie, and is that okay, and is this racist? And it's just like, you wonder why black people die at such an early. It's because our minds can never rest. Even when you make it to the top, you still have to deal with this all the time, and you can never just be like, I'm the Bachelor, let's go get some champagne and get in the pool. We got a pool. You can never do that. Jeff, you were on a reality show, man. Talk to me.
Well, Al, I mean, I would think I was going to go where you were going with this. Earlier, you talked about you have to have that conversation about the N-word with your kids. It like broke my heart when you were saying that, right? And now, like you said, this guy gets to the top, he gets his dream, and he's got to deal with these photos now. He's not enjoying himself. Like, that was exactly where my mind went. He's not having a good time. Now he's got the controversy of the host not being the host anymore from his season. All this extra weight, not just being the first black man on the show, but all this extra weight that he doesn't need, and now he wishes almost, well, I don't want to speak for him, but it's like, I loved my time. I did some bad things, I did some great things, I met my wife, I loved my time on reality TV. I owe everything I have to that. How is he going to look back on this? I wonder. We shouldn't put so much pressure on him. I feel bad.
Erica, chime in.
Yeah, I mean, Al, you hit it. I couldn't have said that better. I really, when I think about Rachel Lindsay, who, you know, I mean, that's like my sister friend, okay? I really love her, and she is such an amazingly brilliant attorney, host, personality, and she really took a large brunt of that Chris Harrison fallout, something that had nothing to do with her. And with Matt was kind of in a lose-lose situation regardless, but for this all to come out and Rachel's actions in the past, and he picked her, so now that stench is on him as well, and now he's getting backlash for not staying the course. I don't think people understand that I do believe that this man is still protecting this woman in some way, and I'm not coming down on this girl, okay? I understand that what she did was, it represents so much bigger context of our history, but like in the grand scheme of things, it's not about her. Really, it's about him in this moment. He has to navigate these waters, and for him to say that they had a conversation and he wasn't comfortable with having to explain to her the context of how that affected him as a black man means that some things were said that meant that she had a fundamental misunderstanding of how life works, right, or how history actually evolved. And that's not up to someone who's only known you for 6 weeks to dismantle and help you rebuild that foundation. I think he's absolutely right. That work is up to her.
Well said, Erica. Okay, so Glenn Close has been nominated for an Oscar and a Razzie for the same role. How is that possible? The actress scored her 8th Oscar nod for her role in Hillbilly Elegy, but the role also earned her a Razzie nomination for Worst Supporting Actress. The movie Doolittle had the most Razzie nominations with 6, including Worst Actor for star Robert Downey Jr. How is that possible, Jeff? How can someone be nominated?
I'm glad you asked Jeff because he's an actor, so I want to know.
Jeff is an actor.
No, you've been a leading man. I'm not playing this with you. You're an actor.
Yes.
Go.
So, Jeff, how can somebody be nominated for an Oscar and then a Razzie?
It's the divide that we have in our country right now. It's what's going on, right? If someone puts you, I don't even want to say a pedestal, if someone celebrates you in some sort of way, half the people will love you, the other half are there to take you down. That's exactly what it is. So if you're not on the side of loving Robert Downey Jr. and I'm on this side, you're going to want to take me down with Robert Downey Jr. just because I'm not on your side. This is kind of a great example of what's going on in everything. It's a microcosm of what we're going through as a society.
When does your movie come out, the new one?
It comes out this, I don't know.
What do you think? This spring?
They got to finish editing it. Yeah, they got to finish editing and stuff.
I'm excited.
And I don't know, like, I might earn my, no, let's just move on.
It's a big deal. You have big stars in this movie.
It's so annoying, Sam. Jeff just will not.
I know.
You're just like, when's your movie? I don't know.
He's humble.
What? I heard you got.
Let's watch it first.
Yeah, I'm like, dude. Jeff,
Can't
you're
wait.
a cool guy, man.
We will do a screening here.
Yes.
Coming up on DBL, a daytime exclusive for DBL. Aaliyah Taylor tells our very own Erica what it was like surviving an alleged attack at the hands of her ex-boyfriend, a former NFL player. Do not go away.
Tomorrow on DBL, former Miss America, Nina Davuluri. She made history as the first woman of South Asian descent to win the crown and tells us why the fight against colorism isn't over.
Colorism is this ideology that's very toxic, that lighter skin is more ideal, more elite.
That's tomorrow only on DBL.
Drive-thrus have been booming during the pandemic, and restaurants are betting that will continue. Now they're using technology to predict what you'll order. Let's connect the dots. When the pandemic hit and restaurants faced restrictions, more places started upping their drive-thru game. That means Starbucks had workers walking car lines taking orders. Chipotle created Chipotlanes, where customers can grab pre-ordered food. And even Applebee's is testing its first drive-thru. Several big names are trying to improve the drive-thru experience with technology. For many, that means encouraging customers to order through apps to speed up the process and improve accuracy. Other restaurants have loyalty programs through their apps that reward customers with points for free food. And fast food giants like McDonald's and Burger King are turning to artificial intelligence to predict what you'll order. That means everything from suggesting iced coffee on a hot day to using Bluetooth technology to ID loyalty program members and ask if you want the same thing you ordered the last time. It's an improvement over screaming into a static-filled speaker in the drive-thru lane.
Welcome back to DBL. Her bruises may be gone, but her strength isn't. It's been a month since Aaliyah Taylor first told the world that her ex-boyfriend, former NFL player Chad Wheeler, strangled her and left her for dead. Chad has pleaded not guilty to the charges and will go on trial for the alleged assault in June. But before that happens, Aaliyah told us she is speaking her truth. Erica spoke with her earlier in her first daytime interview, making it a DBL exclusive. And a warning, some of the images you're about to see are disturbing and may be triggering to some.
Please help me now. Oh, my arms dislocated. Sir, have them come in this room now.
Aaliyah, welcome to DBL.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
You were very public last month and you told your story. So before we get started on the specifics of what happened that day, why are you continuing to speak out in this moment?
Before I worked in media, and it was always very important for me to speak on uncomfortable situations, speak on uncomfortable topics, and create a safe space for people to have conversations like this. And so with this happening to me, I'm just like, I just want to be able to create empowering conversations and educate people about it, and also be able to talk about the healing process. Unfortunately, it's something that happens so often. I didn't know it happened so often until it happened to me. It's not easy for me, and not everyone is blessed with a support system like me. So if I could try to help other people go through this, then I will.
Well, it's very important that it's not forgotten, because obviously your ex-boyfriend, Chad Wheeler, is going to court to stand these charges for your assault. So for those people who may not be familiar with your case, let's walk through the events that happened on January 22nd. You receive a message from Chad, and that was via text. What happened once you got home?
Yeah, when I got home, he was very emotional, crying a lot. And I just tried to console him, try to talk with him. We talk a lot about anything. We're like best friends. So this happened for a few hours on and off. He was crying. And eventually he went into my room, and I went to go check on him. And he was sitting on the ground, and he stood up and got really close to me and told me to bow down. And I asked him why. It was very, he's never asked me to bow down or do anything like that or had that kind of tone with me. So it scared me a lot. And he told me to bow down again. I refused, and that's when he began attacking me.
What is it that's happening?
So we know that you had significant injuries from this attack, things that you'll have to live with for the rest of your life, I understand?
Yeah, unfortunately. I have a concussion, anxiety, my left arm, the elbow was dislocated and the humerus was broken. So I have a lot of therapy, a lot of healing to do from that.
And you have been very transparent about your experience both that night and beyond. But that night, what did you think the outcome was going to be?
In my mind, thinking, he's just very emotional. He just had a hard trip in LA, he maybe just needs to, cry it out, get it out of his system, and we'll be on vacay the next morning, the next day, and it'll be okay. And it's a safe space at my house. So I just figured, that was it. The moment he wrapped his fingers around my throat, that's when I thought, okay, I'm gonna die. I didn't think I was gonna make it as soon as he had started strangling me.
When we come back, we'll chat more with Aaliyah and hear from her what she believes is true justice. Stay tuned.
Nearly 110 million people were victims of
Are the CDC, Dr. Linda Nabha, an infectious diseases expert with the University of Pittsburgh, and Dr. Namanje Bumpus from Johns Hopkins University, who says food allergies are not a concern here.
Food allergies are not contraindicated, milk allergy, egg allergy, any of that.
And Dr. Nabha told us that there's no reason a shellfish allergy should keep you from getting a vaccine.
Shellfish is okay.
The CDC agrees, saying that they recommend, quote, that people get vaccinated even if they have a history of severe allergic reactions not related to vaccine or injectable medications, such as food, pet, venom, environmental, or latex allergies. So we can verify that yes, if you have food allergies, you should still get a COVID-19 vaccine. With your Verify, I'm Evan Kozlov.
Welcome back to DBL. We are continuing our conversation with Aaliyah Taylor, the woman who says she was brutally beaten by her ex-boyfriend, former NFL player Chad Wheeler. Days after the alleged attack, Chad tweeted an apology saying, quote, "Events happened over the weekend that transpired from a manic episode." But Aaliyah questions that theory. Here's what she told Erica in DBL's daytime exclusive interview. And a warning, some of the images you are about to see are disturbing and may be triggering to some.
One of the main points that people were talking about was his mental health, even though you were the actual victim, and that became the narrative. After that event, because there were some things that we didn't hear about, what made you feel like it could have possibly have been not about his mental health?
Questions that I'm asking you.
It did seem like there were character changes. But again, I'm not a psychologist. I don't know how these things work. I mean, when I was in the bathroom calling for 911, didn't check on me and ask if I was okay. But when the police came, they had pushed him into the bathtub. He asked the cops if they were okay. And hearing that kind of broke my heart a little bit, because you asked the cops if they're okay, but you didn't check on me. So that was kind of hard hearing.
Anyone who's had proximity to domestic violence knows that it's a very intimate and complicated issue, but at the end of the day, there is a victim, and that victim should be the person who receives the first concern. So do you feel like going to prison is something that should happen in the future?
I do think so, just because this isn't the first run-in he's had with the cops in a violent manner. I just feel like he needs to understand the consequences of what he did. He almost took my life, and he knows how important I am to so many people in such a brutal way. And then he expected to go on vacay still, which was odd, being in court hearing that he still wanted to go to Hawaii after. I just don't think that he fully understands the consequences. I just don't think that him not going would be beneficial to him or public safety at all.
The idea that knowing how important you are to so many people, that it's almost as though you feel like it has to be a validation to your self-worth. And I'm wondering if that's something that you're feeling right now.
I remember at first, the first week or two after, I was still able to contact his dad, and I was texting his dad asking if Chad was okay. And then I had to take a break and take a step back and ask, wait, I almost lost my life in a brutal, brutal way. I had to stop and think if I wouldn't have called the cops, my family could have found me that way. It took me a while before even deciding to press charges, because I had to actually put myself on the back burner and think, what if this happens to another woman? As much as I do care and love him, God forbid this happens to someone else.
There are people who are watching right here, right now in this moment, that you are normalizing and validating their experiences, and hopefully that gives them some semblance of strength and validity in their truth. So what you're doing is so important right now, and I'm just wondering what closure looks like for you.
I've thought about that. I actually think about that every day. If I were to know why he did it, would that give me closure? Or if I were to know what could have been done to prevent it, even though there's nothing that could have been done, but I don't know, I have no idea what closure kind of looks like for me right now. I think that maybe getting to a point where I am close to being healthy and having some movement back in my arm, as I think about it, that might be close to closure for me right now.
I really want people to continue to rally behind you, and I want you to continue to speak your truth, if not for you, for everyone else who's looking towards you for support. So Aaliyah Taylor, I thank you so much for joining us on DBL.
Thanks for having me.
Wow, if you or someone you know is dealing with domestic violence, here are some phone numbers that can offer help. You can also visit thehotline.org. It is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It is confidential. And yesterday, DBL did reach out to Chad Wheeler's attorney via phone and email for a comment. At the time of this taping, we did not get a response. Erica joins us now. Erica, what a powerful and important interview. What do you think was the biggest takeaway after speaking to Aaliyah? What a brave woman.
Yeah, Aaliyah's grace under fire, and she's being incredibly brave, but this isn't easy. I think one of the biggest takeaways for me was what my concern was when we first talked about this story, that his narrative, what his needs were going to overshadow what the imminent issue was, which was the fact that she was the victim of a very, very brutal domestic violence incident. And what I didn't want to have happen is exactly what she said. You know, she was checking on him to make sure he was okay. And I think there's a response to do that for a Chad Wheeler, who was a white male in an NFL playing situation, and she would have fell by the wayside. I just want people to keep that same energy that they had when the NFL wasn't super quick to respond, when media outlets weren't super quick to report it, when he goes to his preliminary hearings, as well as when he goes to his hearing in June. I want people to keep that same energy.
Well said, Erica. Great work, and we stand with you, Aaliyah. Thank you for your bravery. We'll be right back.
Promotional
The Verify team is here to get you the facts, dispelling misinformation spreading online. And we've seen a lot of questions about the latest stimulus checks. David from Maryland asked us this question. The last $600 stimulus checks were not subject to child supports and other garnishments. Are the $1,400 checks exempt as well? So let's verify. Can these checks be garnished by either the government or private debtors? Our sources are Henry Grez from the American Institute of CPAs, this letter from a coalition of financial associations, including the American Bankers Association, an emergency order from Maryland Governor Larry Hogan, and the bill itself, the American Rescue Plan. Grez tells us that the answer depends on the type of debt. Just like in the past, these stimulus checks cannot be garnished by the federal government or the IRS, but they can be garnished by private companies.
If you're behind on credit card payments and the credit card company has filed a judgment against you, they will be able to access that.
And our viewers aren't the only ones who noticed. 19 financial groups signed this letter to Secretary of the Treasury Janet Yellen, urging Congress to pass a standalone bill that would protect these checks from being garnished. So far, though, no such bill has been signed into law. But there is action on the state level. Governor Hogan just issued this emergency order saying that these payments are exempt from garnishment and that, quote, all financial institutions are ordered to consider these payments as protected. The governor's office told the Verify team that this only applies to banks that are doing business in the state who are subject to their oversight. So we can verify that yes, as of now, these checks can be garnished by private companies, although there are efforts on the state and federal level to stop this. With your Verify, I'm Evan Kozlov.
Welcome back to DBL. A year later, many small business owners are still feeling the financial impact of the pandemic. We are sharing some tips to help in today's Bang for Your Buck. First, adapt to digital. Try marketing and selling online to maintain your sales and cut back on store costs. Second, study your stats. If products didn't sell selling prior to the pandemic, get rid of them. And third, invest in the best small business insurance. When it comes to your small business or any type of quality and affordable insurance, the Buck's got your back. The Hartford will be happy to provide you with solutions. Call 1-800-684-6085 or visit thehartford.com to learn more.
Those analytics.
It's been a rough year for small business.
Yeah. But
very.
I'll tell you this, and it was hard for me, and I'm sure it'll be like this for some viewers. Like looking at your chart, sometimes you'll have a down week and it's just a red arrow and you're like, I don't want to look at that.
Or a down quarter.
Right, or a down quarter. I'm talking to you like you don't know, and it's really depressing, but those analytics are so valuable. We've seen it in sports. They recognize trends and when people buy and when the market, so those analytics are everything. That's a great tip.
Yeah, and I want to just give a shout out to my wife. It's our 5th-year anniversary today, so happy anniversary. I'll clean up the mess I made before I left. I love you. And it's Michael Dean's birthday, too. Yeah, Michael Dean. Celebrate all around.
DBL is new every day. We'll see you guys tomorrow.
I love it.
Thank you.